Welcome to the Thinking Tackle podcast. Now, if you haven't already, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And today in the studio, we are joined by someone who I can describe as a legitimate carp fishing legend, and that is Mr. Martin Locke. Lockie, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the legend bit of it, Rich, but I appreciate the invite, and here we are.
That is very much for us to judge, Martin. I know you're far too modest to say it, but I think this time legends thrown about a lot these days. But in your case, totally justified, mate. And I should say before we start, you've got one ear in and one ear out. Now I'm told this is because this is how you DJ, right?
Well, I was just a bedroom DJ, but I've always done it, and I feel more comfortable with one ear, being able to hear what's going on in the real world.
Yeah,
and this one on this side's enough to.
What music? Because you've always been into your music, haven't you? What music? We're talking?
Progressive house. So Sasha and Digweed are my heroes.
Really?
And always have been. And love a night out, a good rave. You can't beat it, even at my age.
Yeah, and you're still going, aren't you? Yeah.
Every now and again, But it's a real big part of it. It's got escapism. It's fishing's the quietest thing you can do. Being at a rave, standing there, electronic, like the lights going on there, the sound system going through it, is another escape. Weirdly enough, even though it's the loudest thing you can do. So yeah.
But and these are, fishing and that are both things you've done all through your life, and you're not willing to give up as such. Is that like why would you?
Aren't they?
Yeah,
that's that.
Yeah.
So
you've got mates who still go raving with you as well.
We used to be out there with all the boys, Nick Elliott, Dave Gawthorne, Rob Malin.
Yeah.
We used to have meetups, anything from 10 or 12, 15 of us.
Amazing.
Certain place at the festival, in a certain tent, we'll see you third row back, or whatever it'd be, and meet up there in the middle of the afternoon with Sasha and Digweed come on.
Do you know, Nick? It was Nick actually introduced me to Sasha. Like those, some of his more recent stuff. That we were out filming on his boat on the Thames, and he had it on in the morning.
That's right.
So
it's a bit more laid back.
Perfect for a River Thames morning.
I like the proper tear up though. When it's going like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it's full on, and you just stood there going, "There's nowhere in the world I'd rather be than stand in front of you two."
We're talking Expander. That was his famous one, wasn't it, Sasha?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but so you go there for a night out, and you've not heard one of the records before.
Yeah.
Every now and again they put in a classic. It's just total escape, and it's because why I sort of look up to them sort of boys is where I've been at loads of concerts. They're all rehearsed, but these boys don't rehearse anything. They just have to go with the flow.
Right.
And some of the sounds they make coming out of these systems, just like standing there in awe of it all. So it's one of their bits. Good. A lot of the anglers went out and about with us, so we had some great times. And
do you think is it that shared experience when you're in the crowd and you're all sort of concentrating?
Sure. And also you're so relaxed. I'll come up with some half decent product ideas when you're standing there. You're in such a good mood, you can't help but if we did that might work with this. Sometimes you wake up or the next day you think it's a load of old rubbish, but every now and again, just a little ideas to carry on with. So it's been a big part of things I've done over the years.
In terms of your natural creativity, Martin, when do you work at your best in terms of your product ideas?
When you're in a good mood.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
And how often can you achieve that in a normal week?
It varies. If you've got a lot of stress in life, you're not so creative. And if you're in a better mood, or you're fishing, you caught something, or you're chatting to the right people, or you go to the show and meet someone, you might see something out the corner of your eye. And it just breeds in. It's just within you.
It flows from there.
And what is it? Inventions. Necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yeah.
So my side of it. I'm not doing it. I better go out and think of a product today. I'm going out and work. If you can isolate the problem, then it gives you a chance to get the solution sorted out.
Yeah.
In a funny sort of way. And that's how it sort of rolls through. A lot of it's now. It's more. It's evolution rather than revolution, isn't it? But at the start of this, it was more like some of these ideas from not just me, lots of other people in this industry were revolutionary, and so it rolls on now. So
simply because there are fewer ideas that are left to be discovered. Is that
all the little gaps are being filled up? But the way I see it is, every time there's a gap that's filled, there might be a smaller one either side of it.
Okay.
So it goes on. You can't think of anything revolutionary all the time, but every now and again you get something that just people want.
And do you enjoy the creative process?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
it's me all over.
And do you find that you're at your best in your terms of problem solving when you're fishing?
Without a doubt. Yeah, that's what, you're being around anglers, you're talking to anglers. sitting around and saying that sometimes you can come up with an idea, a solution to a problem that people didn't even know they had.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is what the boys at Korda have done as well. And, and Fox and a lot of these major companies, they're not around just through luck.
No.
They're down because they've moved forward in this sport that we all love from through its infancy, really.
Absolutely. And we're gonna take a stroll through your fishing, Martin. And for context, let's talk a little bit about your early days. Were you born in Kent? You're a Kent
I was,
lad through and through, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me about how it all kicked off for you.
Well, my mum's Scottish and from a little village on the borders called Eyemouth, and just near Berwick-on-Tweed. And it was one of those fishing villages where everyone knew everyone. The doors were always open. My Nana and Grandpa, they knew like everyone in the village there. The old boys with the cloth caps sitting on the promenades and whatnot, looking out over the sea. My uncle was the village butcher, and another two uncles worked on the fishing boat, so the whole place was just fishing. And I started going up there when I was 4. And I just had a fascination with the water, and sitting listening to my granddad and all his friends, the old sea tales, looking out over the sea there. My first sort of touch base with it, I suppose, was going down the rock pools. Strange enough, I didn't like the fish. I like the crabs.
I love
and
rock
stuff
pooling.
like that.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, over the years, and I used to go up there from when I was 4, when I first started the rock pools. When I was 5, I was up there for my summer holiday. If I left, doing the school thing. Sorry, it'd be 6, wouldn't it? I was there for 6 weeks. And Nan bought me a fishing rod to fish in the harbour. The very basic, like it would be. It didn't matter to me. It was absolutely like the one. 4.5 foot, green fiberglass, white handle, little reel. And so when the rock pools, I was out in the rock pools when the tide was out, and I knew when that tide was out I wanted to catch what no one else could catch, whether it was a little tiny rock lobsters after crabs. The more difficult it was to catch and find, I wanted to go and do it. And there was times when I'd bring them home, put them in the bucket to keep an eye on them, have a little look at them. They'd escape from the bucket. I don't know how. To this day, I don't know how a crab gets out of a bucket. And I'd find them when I walked down to the beach, down the steep hills, I'd find them on the side of the curbs.
Right.
400 or 500 yards. So they had the instinct to get back to the sea.
They knew which way to go.
Yeah, they all went back in the end
downhill
in the sea. But I was fascinated by things. Anyway, when the tide came in, with a little fishing rod, I started going down on the harbour. And they're little coalfish. They used the local word for them is podley.
Right.
There was a few flatties around as well, and the eels and stuff. But main ones is podleys. You can see them over the side.
Which is exciting,
I'm 5 and 6 years old, right? I used to go over the road there by hook, like one hook, one lead weight in the little, like tiny little seedy bag there, and tie them up, buying 2 or 3 sprats at a time and chopping them up. And strangely enough, I wish I remembered now, or at the time when I started carp fishing, what I was doing then. So I was looking down and seeing these podleys. They're anything from like 6 inches or about 10, 12 inches long. And I could see them nibbling away at the baits, as we call it. Nibbling is a word done here very often, isn't it? You can see them attacking it. And I thought, why am I doing that? I'm going to end up with no bait all the time. So what I'll do is I'll cut it off in such a way, and I'll leave the hook bare. When I was 5 and 6 years old.
Proper side up.
Yeah. And it was nail them every single time. The people that were coming up from that town on holiday, they would take these fish home and eat them. But because we knew everyone, I could go down, I had my pick of what do you want, because my nan and granddad knew everyone, and my mum's brothers knew everyone, my uncles, so I'd walk on there and it'd be like, hello, Martin, what do you like? Oh, can I have a cod today? Can we have a couple of prawns today? Any chance of anything, crabs, anything you wanted, take. So I wouldn't need to kill these fish. I was never into killing them. Take these fish from the harbour. But that was exciting times. And from then, I went up to the River Eye, fishing for the little trout. And that was fun as well. This is all when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. And then it progressed to fishing for 6 weeks in the year wasn't enough for me. So when we came back, we moved to Belvedere, where my mum still is now, which is just like 10 or 15 minutes in a train down to Dartford Park. So now I'm agonized to go down there with the old lane net used to call it, a minnow net basically. By now, being the one I wanted to catch what everyone says you can't catch, I've done the minnow fishing, I've done all the rest of it. We know the minnow traps, set all that up at the river. No, once you do it, it's easy to do. I don't want to do it. What was the hardest thing to find was going to be a crayfish. I only live in chalk streams, and there was not abundant like they are now. They're really rare. So where do they live? They live in under rocks in dark places. So over there we are, sitting there with my mum, tartan rug out, picnic set out. I'm walking up and down my net in the jar, with the string around the top. She said, whatever you do, just stay around where I can see you. There's a lot of people down there. And don't go under the bridge.
Straight under the
That
bridge.
was it then.
Yeah.
So I'm sneaking up there and having a quick look around. She won't mind. Strolled under the bridge, and sure enough, under a rock, before it got too dark under this bridge, I found one. There it is, like unbelievable. It was only about 2 inches long, but to me, it was like the greatest thing I've ever found. Right, but I better have a look at what's through this bridge, because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Strolled through there, and all of a sudden, wow, there it was. Brooklands Lakes. It was like utopia. Fucking that's it then. Back I came. Right, Mum, I've had enough of this. I want to start going fishing over at those lakes. That's got to be the one. And he said, please, 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 can we go next week? So it might have been a week or two after that. So in the meantime, all my fishing gear was in Scotland. So the only way to go forward now is to make it. And by that, I don't mean going buying blanks or whatever. I bought a bamboo cane from a garden centre, just like you'd have to run your runner beans up. I've got the safety pins, the pins you can pop out and down they come, right, cut the ends off, bent them back, whipped 3 or 4 eyes on with a bit of sewing thread. I made a float out of balsa wood. And balsa wood would break, it's so flimsy, isn't it? Put about 20 coats of paint on it. The line, I got a very, very cheap reel, a centre pin, probably, I don't know, for £1 or something like that. And there was one of these old-fashioned tackle shops down the road from us that was, you walk in there smelling of stale maggots and kestrel ground bait. The couple that run it, really old people, you walked in, it was all squeaky floorboards and all the rest of it. They sold darts as well, and flies and spinners and whatever. Anyway, we got the very basics from them. I got a ferrule from them, a brass ferrule. I cut this thing in half, the bamboo stick, taped all round it, jammed the ferrule together. That's it, now I'm 2 pieces of a fishing rod, off we go. So sure enough, same thing happened. Put the tartan rug out. It was on the centre path at Brooklands, I remember. I put a few maggots in. Now I'm starting to get the float starting to twitch around. We hadn't been there half an hour. Fella comes strolling through like he's just walking his dog, like it's a public place. So he's any bites? Have we caught anything? I said, I'm getting a few knocks now. The float's starting to jump out, and it won't be long. And my mum said to him, "Oh, it's nice and peaceful over here, isn't it?" I said, yeah. He said, "You wait till next week." She said, "Why is that?" So that's when the fishing season opens. Straight away. Then she's gone, like, quick, we've got to pack up and go. The police will be all over us. I said, "Stop me, I won't do anything. I'm getting bites, my float's starting to do." No, we've got to go. We'll come back next week. And all right, well, I picked it all up. I've snapped my float. That's knackered. Off we toddled home again. The following week, don't tell me fishing wasn't popular in the 70s, because it was absolutely rammed out with people. All the reed beds were flattened down. It was like, being where it is, quite near to the Dartford Town Centre and that area, it wasn't in the middle of nowhere. That people that had no respect for fishing, the rubbish that was everywhere, it's like incredible, just in a day. Anyway, that was the start of it. But so if I hadn't walked through that tunnel that day, a every chance I might not be sitting here now.
Really?
So yeah, it was just.
But there was
one
something
of those
in you,
moments.
wasn't there? There was clearly something.
It was always there. It was built from when I was at, my mum being that Scottish fishing village. That was it.
Yeah.
There was one thing there that a turning point, I think, when I'm fishing. I'm trying to catch what can't be caught. And I've listened to my granddad and all his mates over the years sitting there, and I was a sea dog when I was a kid. And I knew what happens when when the tide goes out, the kelp beds start coming in. I knew when there was going to be a spring tide, and it really went out. And I wanted to catch me a lobster. That ain't going to happen. They live in the deep sea. And they sort of laughed at me. Yeah, all right then. But one day I'll show you. Oh, we'll catch one. Sure enough, looked over the top of the hill where they lived, looked at the sea, and it was so far out the tide it was untrue. Now, I had quite a lot of sea sense about me as well, because the thing with tides is they can come in around the outside of you, cut you off. But I had enough awareness about me to know where I was at. So sure enough, gone down there, and it was almost like I knew I was going to find it that particular day. I'd probably be about 10 years old at the time. Lifted up the kelp under the thing. Sure enough, there's the antenna and there's his eye sticking out. I knew I'd catch you one day. And all I did was took him out, took him back to the shore a little bit, it's a bit safer. Watched him, I was fascinated with him. Watched him for a little while, went back to the outside where the tide's coming on the kelp bed, sent him on his way, thanks very much. We didn't have any a camera in those days.
I was going to say, nowadays you'd have your phone out.
Yeah, that's right, that was a luxury we didn't have. And but that was to kind of set me in. When people have asked me about my fishing these days, I kind of look back to that moment thinking, anything you say you can't find or catch, the bigger the challenge, the more I want it. And that's the sort of a moment where it came where if you want something bad enough, you can achieve it.
Do you think, Martin, that there's any chance that generations of Scottish fishermen have made you the angler that you are? Does that happen, or is it all about, do you think it resets every generation?
It's a difficult question, Rich.
No, it just occurred to me. But is it in your blood?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because it strikes me that, you know, you'd always have been an angler, no matter, you know, with that kind of heritage. I just had a
fascination with water and what was underneath it.
Yeah. And that unites all of us, I think. Or maybe, you know, it's tough to know now, isn't it? Because you get people from, you fished with people from all backgrounds, haven't you, over the years?
Yeah.
Do they all have that common, you know, fascination?
All start when I did, and everyone's got a different story, haven't they? But I think the fact that when I started from doing what I was doing, and then came and started found Brooklands, then I started the way that a lot of people think you should do, fishing for the roach, then fishing for the bream, and then progressing to tench and whatnot. And eventually, after seeing all this going on, tench were hard to catch, you know, by design. Then I was going down there on the train, walk through Dartford Town Centre with the gear, and by then I had a mate or two I was going with, and you're seeing these fellas with the green tents there in the green boiler suits, a bit unapproachable really, you know, look a bit intimidating. Anyway, one particular day I found myself just down the bank from one of these fellas that all look like they're night fishing, stay out all night as well. Really, that
excite you? The idea of that?
Massively. Yeah. Anyway, the curiosity got the better of me, and I thought these men would just tell you to clear off. And they'd landed one. I said, "Is it all right if I come and have a look?" It was a 14-pounder. Yeah, no problem, mate. Come along now. I looked down. I couldn't believe it. Massive. It's just like, you can't catch these. It's just incredible to like be one of the boys that fish for these sort of things. Anyway, the lad I spoke to was Bobby Penfold, who's still around now. I lost touch with him for years, and then all of a sudden one of the shows he turned up. But I'll never forget it. You was the one that said to me, "Yeah, come along." If you'd have been an arsehole to me that day and said, "No, I don't want you kids around," who knows what would have happened. But then I bought into that. Yeah, I need to progress to these, trying to catch these things. Because you know it's like, if you caught enough smaller ones, you want to get something bigger and bigger. That's just a natural progression, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that. So from then on, I now want to be fishing for those.
And Brooklands actually very, very famous lake, we should say, as well.
For sure, yeah. There was a lot, unbeknown to me at the time. There was Fred Wilton with the HNV baits, Jack Hilton, Quest for Carp, well documented in there. Rod Hutchinson, I think, was down there as well, or had been. Yeah, it was just, I just found myself there through pure luck. 3
absolute icons of carp fishing, where these aren't just, you know, these aren't even just good anglers, these are transformative figures in our sport, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure.
And your own development, sort of, let's talk a little bit about what accelerated that. I mean, stuff like the hair must have been...
Well, yeah, good point, that one. It was, if I do something, I don't want to dabble, I'm going to go for it. Yeah. That's it. And by now, I'm not going back up to Scotland for the summer holiday. I'm fishing all the summer holiday. But I'm going down there on the Sunday afternoon until Friday afternoon, come home for the weekends. And there's now a group of lads together that are all, you know, keen as mustard. And I know for the first 3 years there, bear in mind we had a 3-month close season, I was fishing over 100 nights a year.
Right.
You know, from the off.
That's a lot. That is
Well, it was,
it's getting on for
not
one
too
in
bad,
3
is it?
nights, isn't it? You know?
well, for,
Yeah.
yeah, anyway. But the thing is, the experiences you built up and the friends you made then, and all the information you shared, it was just like you couldn't wait to get back down there. When the close season was around, we were down there, give it a month until you start seeing fish on the top. We'd go down on the Saturday and the Sunday, get the train, walk through dark, just to throw bread in and mixers and meow mix and stuff, and just see how they react. Just to be there was the one. And that's where really the start of the like making your own bits and pieces of gear
Really?
went on.
Yeah.
It's next to the bamboo rod, because it was all about, you know, who could make the different on their heron bite alarms at the time, you know, the different tones. I mean, one of the lads, our Cole Pesky, was a very good lad, he's still about now. On his one, he had 3 choices, like, you know, on your push bikes, he had the ambulance, the fire brigade and the police, so he could switch about on that. And then the crack was to try and beat him on that. Then someone got the Lilliput lights, the big bulbs rather than the little LED, and the longest leads on the sounder, but everything was just it was just a big melting pot of excited to be involved in carp fishing. So the lad I sort of teamed up with by then was Mick Murray, and we would go whatever the weather. A lot of these fellas dropped off for the winter time, but we were keen as you could be. And occasionally you'd carry your gear through Dartford from the station, probably about a mile, Friday evening, with your fishing gear. The locals, all the people who were in the pubs, would take the piss and whatever. Didn't matter, over you went. And I've turned up there one winter time. It's been cold that week, but whatever happened, the routine was Thursday night I'm rolling bait, Friday to Sunday I'm going fishing during the school time, and that was it. That's what you did. And I've come down there one week in the winter, settle your gear up like you do, brolly with the ratchet bed chair, bin liner over the front case it rained. In the middle of paths, you're going to get people walking past you at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, walking their dogs, pissed, whatever. I wouldn't do it now.
No.
But at the time,
fearless as
you haven't
kids,
got any phones, you've got no other way of getting. You just didn't think nothing was going to happen to you. And I've cast out, there's a bit of a ripple on the lake, cast out, and it's gone ting, 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 ting. Fuck's sake, it's fucking frozen over. Now, in it comes again, no way around that. I've got to go back, pack all my gear down, walk through Dartford town centre again. By now I'm going to get on the last train, all the pissheads are coming out, the pubs are getting stick and whatever. Well, done. Get back. Yeah, so that was the worst thing that could happen. You know, if I couldn't go fishing, that was that. Anyway, we're stuck at it, and there's a couple, I'll call them legends, Melvin and Joe Streeter. They're still fishing now, and Melvin used to come down to Brooklands on his moped. And we've seen him a few weeks, he's catching a few. And really, there's only me and Mick down there at the time, of the youngsters. And Melvin took us under his wing. He was catching regularly, we were catching none. You know, at the time, the baits were, when I first started fishing down at Brooklands, I was catching them on freeline luncheon meat.
Yeah.
Then it moved on to paste baits, paprika and stuff.
And that's what you're making.
Just make a ball of that, and that was you pinch it off, roll it around the hook, and out it goes. Anyway, it's moved on a little bit now, so we use leads now. Anyway, Melvin's catching regular. And we were like approachable lads. We were the original pests. And the art of it was to be able to get an answer without asking a direct question.
Okay.
It sounds odd, right? Nick's a pest, he was blatant with it, but we could do it subtly. And Melvin helped us out. So one particular day, he said to us, I'll give you a hand. All right. Now, in the winter, it was traditional to get what you call twitches. Indicator moves up a little bit. If you've got to be on it quickly and strike, pull the bait through the hook and all the rest of it, and you might hook it, you probably won't. Melvin was fishing, we all had the bottle tops on there, rod's 3 foot off the ground. Melvin was fishing his bottle tops about 4 inches off the rod. Strange, isn't it? But every take he had was a reel spinner. And the reel spinner was the thing you only ever got in the summer. In the winter, he's just got twitches. So his line was tight. But it didn't dawn on us at the time that was causing it. Anyway, he said, look, I'll give you a hand, boys. You got to keep it to yourself. All the summer boys you know, don't even mention it to them. Right, fair enough. So he's done the old look behind him, left and right down the bank, no one about, open his hand. And what he's got in there was what you call a side hook bait, but it wasn't quite like that. The choice of hook was a Leon Dore, or Leon Dore, that was it. And what Melvin had done is he'd got and mixed together with real small baits. We were trying to make baits that were liquid in the middle because it was winter, easier for the fish to eat and all that thing, you're thinking. But these were little hard baits. And what we did was, he'd thread it round the hook, up the hook link, then cut a slither of matchstick, tiny little bit that went through the eye of the hook.
Okay.
When it's soft enough, you chewed it for long enough, push it through, bend it into a V, put the bait on it, and the hook was sticking out at 90 degrees. It's right, that's one part of it. And then this is the other one, the matchstick on the rod with the clip. And what happens there is, of course, the fish picks it up, pulls it on there, it's so tight, the fish is hooked. You know, like, unbelievable.
Can I ask, was that the first line clip, do you think, in use? Because obviously, the point being, you then made what people still consider to be the best line clips on the market.
Pass on that one, but yeah, they were the first ones. Matchsticks were really good.
Yeah.
They just gripped when they got wet and whatever. Anyway, the following week, we can't wait to get back down the lake. He's told us the mix. The flavours were very important, still are now. You know, if someone has a new flavour, the amount of times over the years that people would absolutely iron a lake out on a certain flavour in them. Anyway, following week, we're down there. Guns are blazing. We've got the method now. Good old Melvin, he's sorted us out. Sure enough, first weekend, we've had a couple or three each. January or December, whatever it was. You know, this is made us up. We hadn't caught anything for 3 or 4 months. The following weekend, the same thing happened. And the same thing, this is unbelievable, isn't it? And with him telling us not to say anything to any of the boys that come around that don't fish in the winter because they're pussies and whatever, when they're walking around, like they do with their dog, for something to do, you were praying you wouldn't get a take. And then when there was it lines up a bit to indicate it's a bit tight to the rod, just strike a twitch easier. That was it. They were like bowstrings out there.
Yeah.
But he didn't twig it because no one had ever done it. No one ever even put 2 and 2 together. Anyway, with that, when they wandered off, like, whew, thank fuck for that. And then over it, or down the switch, go again.
We're talking Mitchells at this stage.
Yeah, Mitchell 300s.
They could do some damage if they're churning mine. Surely to your hands.
Sure enough. Yeah. You was having to put them together and take them apart as often as was sitting on the rod.
Right.
Either way, that was really good fun. And to Melvin, that time, the story went on because it was a few weeks after that he did the same again. He leaned back, no one about, opened his hand, and there it was, the bait sitting on this hair, 3 inches from the hook. We looked, hey. What happened, his brother was fishing on Darrenth, Joe, and that's where Kev Maddox, Lenny Middleton, all those boys there, half dozen of them, I think, we used this hair rig to massive effect. So the actual story was, I asked Joe this recently. I saw him, he said, what happened? Mickey Richardson, he was on there at the same time, and he found one in the mud. And it had the hair tied on. And I think the story was that they made the baits with I don't think it was hair, it was like a bit of 12-ounce line or 1 pound mono or whatever. And they tied that around a grain of rice and then rolled the bait around it and boiled it up so the hairs were attached to them and just hooked them on.
Yeah.
And Lenny Middleton, bless him, he did say to Mick, if you want me to, and Joe, if you want me to show you what goes on, I'll show you. No, fair enough, appreciate it. That was that. So of course Joe then told Melvin, who then told us.
Yeah.
And I have to say, we looked at that and we were using, I don't know, I think it was 2 rods at a time. So you go 1 and 1. And the difference was absolutely nothing.
Oh, really?
Nothing.
That's not what I expected you to say.
No. Yeah. Because it seemed then the important point was, as it is right to this day, the hook was hanging out.
Okay.
We caught no more on a hair rig than we caught on the hook hanging out. But I think the difference with why it made such a big splash is no one had that bit in the middle. They were going from soft baits with the hook buried in them to a hair rig. That's why there was, some people all of a sudden were catching none. Now they're catching, 100 doubles in a few weeks, which it was on some places, including for those boys on Darrenth. They were catching so many, but I had that bit, the gap in the middle there with that side hook in, which works a treat now,
So were you, for how long did you sort of persist with the side hooking alongside the hair, or did you make the move over despite the fact they weren't?
By then, that's the winter time coming, and then in the summertime, on Brooklands, it's a new particle.
Right.
It's gone from chickpeas. So you're obviously going to side hook that to maples and kidney beans. They weren't great baits, I didn't think. Maples were, kidney beans and that type of thing weren't. And then came a turning point with peanuts. I don't know who discovered them, but I do understand how it got out, if you like, was someone had one in a sack, as it was in those days, a Hessian sack. Hessian sack come unattached. Someone hooked it up, and inside, the fish crapped out peanuts. And remember the old Big D advert, peanuts? Right? Someone shouted that, and that's how it got out.
Really?
Yeah. So, but from that day to this, that then put into my mind that what a good bait, how devastating a bait they really want is. Because at the time it was, we were doing what we were doing. You're not catching too many, you're catching more than enough to keep you happy. And doing these weeks down at Brooklands like I was, if you got, I don't know, 3 or 4 in a week, that was quite a good week. The first week I used peanuts, I had 25. And that was like actually a year's worth of fishing a week. 2 at once.
This must have been
6 or 7 of you round the State Point, and there's 4 or 5 of you hooked to fish at once. It was just unreal, the action.
Were presumably people were seeing this all going on, and
yeah, but there was only the 10 or 15 of us that kept ourselves to ourselves. On State Point somewhere I've got a picture of, I think, 6 pairs of rods out, or 7 pairs of rods out. It looked like the guns of Navarone out there.
Yeah.
And everyone was catching them. It was great fun, and so from that day to this, I know if you had some baits are absolutely devastating. You don't get the advantage now because it's all been used to some extent, if indeed they allow the rules to do it. But the thing with the particles were, not like boilies these days, particles you got one good year on them, and everyone caught so many that the fish were wary of them the following years after that, so they're never good. That's why it was always like, what's the next new particle? And the tigers came along after that. I didn't think they were personally as good as a peanut was at start, but they're still devastating. They are now these days, aren't they?
It doesn't seem to be one that particularly they, blows in inverted commas. The tiger, it still catches every year, doesn't it, on any water? And
a lot of lakes don't allow their use of peanuts or anything like that, so I get that. It was at the time at Brooklands, they were getting, I'd say 95% of the anglers were putting peanuts in or tigers in, so the fish was suffering at the end of it. So
how aware are you at this stage of like a wider carp scene? You've talked about being exposed to what was going on at Darrenth and these giants of the scene like Lenny and Kevin Maddox. Did you have aspirations to join them on those sort of waters, or were you just happy catching loads on Brooklands?
Well, the next one down from Brooklands was Halton Kirby, and there was more in there, but they weren't as big. And at the time, I was still doing the train thing, and where some of the lads were, when Brooklands wasn't fishing so well, they'd toddle off to Halton Kirby. I just stayed at Brooklands because they were bigger in there, and that was the way it was. So.
But your PB presumably has kind of increased as you're catching more and more out of Brooklands.
Yeah. I remember I had the first ever 20-pounder I was on lunch and meat.
Oh, really?
And then the following winter, the last week of the season, I had a 27 and I think another 20 as well.
That's enormous for the day, isn't it? 27.
They were, at the time, I think there was 3 different 27s in Brooklands. I had 2 of them.
Right.
So it was one of them.
But that's nationally big, isn't it? 27 at that stage?
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just amazing to be a part of what I'd seen as a kid. You're still a kid, mind you, but now you feel more part of the scene down there, if you like. And because you're friendly to people, everyone knows each other. The info's coming good, and you're sort of starting to spread your wings a little bit further then.
So how old are we talking at this stage? How old would you be? Is life starting to sort of, get in the way? Have you got to think about what the future is in Locke at this point or not?
I was working as an apprentice engineer, fitting and turning on the lathes and the milling machines and whatnot. And due to the way the carp fishing was going, I think it was the carp site started, correct me if I'm wrong, 1981.
I think you're right.
Maybe around then, maybe a bit before that. I don't know how I bumped into Mickey Sly, Les Bamford, those boys. Might have even been at the old NASA conferences. We used to get up there, stay at a weekend in a university and run riot there. But I ended up at Mick's dad's factory making monkey climbers of all things.
Oh, really? What, commercially made monkey climbers out of a factory at that point?
Well, I'd go in there on the Saturday, and Mick would turn them up. He was making PTFE monkeys, and I was making the plastic ones. We did that and sold a few.
Yeah.
And then when the Carp Society first conference came around, there was a few people who'd heard of what I was doing. I can't remember how. I remember the greatest moment was I went to a Lloyd Bent at the carp cellar Watford, and I swapped, I don't know, 20 monkey climbers for a bivvy.
Wow.
You know, is this what it's all about?
It's probably a canvas busy though.
That was it was Richard McDonald Big Water Lot.
Right.
All it was the sides. You had to sew it onto your brolly yourself. So anyway, I thought, yeah, I like all this. This is real. And the thing is, those shows that time, the only place you could get these products, Dell was there doing the conversions to herons, the wavelings he was doing as well. It was all just, you just want to be part of everything carp fishing. The CAA were around a lot before the Carp Society. I used to go to the meetings there and meet the boys. Anything to get involved in carp fishing, you had to be at it.
You weren't sort of like knocking on the door at the BCSG at this point.
I was the third youngest member of the BCSG.
Right.
Just you can't mention it.
You know, at that point you had to have an interview, etc.
Yeah, 19 I was. I got in there. Yeah, Lee Jackson interviewed me.
Did he?
At the pub at Gravesend.
Had you met Lee before?
Yeah.
You had?
Yeah.
So a friendly face at least.
Sort
but he's still going to scrutinise your record,
yeah. So take a list of every fish caught, including the ounces and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was the third youngest member ever, I believe, at 19.
Right. So
that was nice getting their magazine through. You know, it was all the nice pencil drawings and things, no adverts in there or anything like that. And it was nice to be part of it.
What kind of characters are we talking in those meetings?
It seemed like they've been fishing for years. Alan Smith, another absolute legend at his time. You know, he's another one that could show you what bait could do, a devastating effect.
I'd like to expand that a little bit before we move on, because you're not the first person to mention Alan. Lots of people won't know who Alan was. Can you explain why he was renowned for his ability to bait?
No. I've no clue.
Right.
But he's just used to have that knack.
Yeah.
You know, and the way I see it, if you've got good angles around you, you can aspire to be as good as them.
Everyone says he's the top of the tree.
And how?
Right. Yeah.
Because without, you know, I'm not going to go up to Alan and say, right, you're catching loads now, what's your secret on your bait? Because he's obviously researched it, and research in those days was much different to these days. You know, I remember having to go and get, the word was on, it's Langdale's food colourings, food flavours, they're banana. That involved me getting a train and 2 buses to Blackheath into the delicatessen to buy up what they had. Come back. So if you found something that was working, you sort of kept it between you and your little group there. And Alan wasn't a close enough friend to me. He was a different sort of era, if you like, different, I don't know, 10 years older, whatever. Yeah. I wouldn't dare ask him. So all I knew was that Alan catch loads, same as a lad on Brooklands Black Pool. He used to catch more than anyone else. And I used to look and think, if he's catching what he's catching, they're feeding. So I'm doing something wrong or not quite good enough. And that's just how the whole thing sort of goes along to this day, I think. You know, if someone on a pond catching more than you, there must be the fish are feeding.
Yeah.
Well, they've got something to induce them to feed. Okay. So therefore, I've got up my game a little bit. Yeah. Sometimes it never comes to you. Sometimes it comes to you in 5 minutes flat.
I sidetracked you because you were talking about the monkey climbers, the bivvy, and I feel like we were going to segue nicely into like the embryonic solar tackle. Certainly, your interest in engineering and stuff like that. So. Yeah.
Well, I was working with Mickey Sly at first. What happened then? I did the apprenticeship, but what happened? I knew Kerry Barringer, Lee, James, Paul Clink, and all the rest of it on the. I'm not sure if I was on Savo at the time, but it was that sort of same time it all happened, or a bit of a fuzzy sort of time, really. I remember going to up at the fisheries saying that the boys were on the con club.
Yeah.
Come and have a guest on there. You can only do days. Fine. So I turned up on the Friday evening, the old Capri, fishing gears in there, and in we go. So the end of it, they've been in there for hours. I just arrived. Cut any chance with the Indian. I got no room in my car, and as we walked across car park, so you got loads of room in your car. Someone had helped himself. So that's marvellous, isn't it? And it was my FG Co super seat, one of which I see you've still got parked over there.
Yeah, Richie's one is over at the back there. Yeah,
yeah, right enough. Anyway, that had been taken in. There was everything.
Yeah, bank
sticks, buzzers, indicators, a lot. So I thought, well, obviously we'd been gutted it at the time. On the Monday, went to work, and rather than me going buying the stuff that was around now, there's loads of bits of stainless steel lying around in the bottoms of the machines. Going to throw it away. I was going to make something then. So with that, next summer I went fishing. It was still down at Brooklands. The the boys are seeing that. I've got nice, shiny, bright gear. There was Richie had stainless at the time, as did Clive and Malcolm. Don't know if anyone else did. But it was stood out like, looked proper. And before long, the boys are like, where'd you get that? I made it. Can you make me some? So during my dinner hour, that took over. And then it ended up being a bit more than a dinner hour. And then at the end of the apprenticeship, they're like, we haven't got a job for you. Whatever. But fishing wasn't big enough to give me a full-time job. So I went and worked at an advertising studio. That didn't work out either. You know, you had to be paid on how old you were, not how much experience you had. So I said, sorry, we can't do that. Right. Now I'm going fishing again. So I had about five months off, virtually full-time. I didn't have a car at the time either. So I'm doing everything on the train. So I've jumped back, haven't I? Because of Capri story. I'm saying it's all a bit fuzzy at the time. Yeah, that was a little bit further on. Anyway, I had a few months fishing. Eventually my mum said, look, you really need to get a job. They've just called me up from where you used to work. You did your apprenticeship. They're taking people on again. Have a go. All right, fair enough. So I went there. Another few months went by. They made me redundant.
Again.
Got $1,000.
Yeah. Bought
a little lathe. I'd already got a little lathe from Mickey Sly and Les in the first place. I needed a little bit, something a bit more repetition work. You could do knockout like batches and stuff. Got that, started on there, and that was sort of what started me doing work for what at the time was for Ron Hutchinson, Catching Products.
Yeah.
Wherever you can make Lockie, I'll buy it. So sure enough, once every 2 or 3 weeks, me and Bob Jones, Bob did the rods, I did the stainless. We loaded up the car, off it went, up the road like that with all the weight of stainless in it.
To Lincolnshire.
To sunny Lincolnshire. Lovely day out.
Yeah.
And Rod was excellent. The layout of his place, it was just exciting to be there. He was the one, wasn't he?
Because he at the time there was no bigger carp angler in the UK at the time, was there?
No, Rod was a man, so I was more than pleased to make it for him and put his name down the side of the bank sticks and whatnot.
Do they have you seen any of that? I've never seen one of those.
Around.
Yeah, it must be, mustn't it?
Doesn't seem to go anywhere, but yeah, same as a lot of things, isn't it? You know.
Your stuff's going to outlast us all by a long way, isn't it? Let's face it, the stainless gear is going nowhere.
No, it's just in people's flipping lofts and cupboards and garages, isn't it? Anyway, that went on for a couple of years, I think, and then Rod had a bit of trouble. I think he sold it to Nash in the end, didn't he? In the meantime, I've got the call saying I don't want any more. So well, I'm going to sell it because we had likes of Simpsons, a term for the people like that, Middlesex angling. They were calling me, and I'm saying I can't really. I sell it to Rod exclusively. Rod's not having it. Where's that leave me? I can't now call them and say, oh, do you want it? Because they'll turn around to me and say, well, when I want to buy it off you, you couldn't sell it to me, so no. But that smoothed over, and it started off as, before solar. It was Martin Locke stainless steel setups, and just one piece of print went out to them, and that got me by. And the money I got from redundancy, bought the little machine. That then quickly got, like, where you'd have a problem with a machine in the factory, you'd go in the canteen and sit there while the maintenance man fixed it.
Yeah.
When you've got it and all of a sudden you've got a smell of burning coming out the motor and there's no canteen, there's no one to fix it, you have got to do it. That's when it hit home. This ain't quite going to be as easy as I thought it would be. So anyway, you get through all that, and eventually it's come to, there's a thing on I think it was the Thatcher government, the Enterprise Allowance Scheme. Work for yourself, set up your own firm, self-employed, whatever it was, as it was at the time. Government pay £40 a week. All right, I'll try that. So I've gone along for the meeting. You know, there's people there with their ideas, what they're like, sitting on the Dragon's Den, really.
Yes,
it was.
yeah.
You know, there was a load of people in the room. I want a perfume shop. I want to set up a hairdresser's. What do you want to do? I make fishing gear. Oh, okay, that's different. So bottom line is, you say, okay, you've got to have a name for it. You've got to set up an account that is what it is. And I think it was Tom said to me, I was working in a garage, never had any windows in it, all hours that God sent. And I used to have the radio at the time, the pirate radio. And the station was Solar Radio, which stood for Sound of London Alternative Radio. So he said, well, you're a bit of a pirate, because it was obviously a bit of cash going on at the time and whatever. So why not Solar Tackle? I said, that's it then, Tom. So yeah, that's how it stuck.
Amazing. And what did the gear look like, Martin? What would we recognise that as a solar product now, if we saw the original?
Yeah, 6-inch buzzer bar, still a 6-inch buzzer bar.
Yeah,
you know, it was
more or less the same.
Yeah. I think we did an advert one time where I put on there 2 bank sticks together. What's the difference between these 2 products? So it's about 20 years.
Yeah,
that's the only difference was the label had wiped off. Yeah. That was that. So look, I've always made things that, from an angler's point of view, I don't want it to let anyone down. If you buy it once, it ain't going to be cheap, but it will last you forevermore. It won't let you down. And if it did let you down, I'm going to be on the bank. You're going to come up and have a go at me for it. So if you pay good money for something, you want it to last, and that's sort of been my ethos ever since.
You must still see it, that stuff every now and again, or people come up to you and say, I'm still using that. It must give you a tremendous sense of pride, Martin.
The thing it does for me is the lads have set up the solar enthusiasts, thousands of them. And that does give me pride, knowing that they've got that.
The gold stuff.
I don't even. We only made that. There was only a handful of bits
so
of that.
Collectible though, isn't it?
No, we only made a few bits of that.
But it's gone mad though. You see the prices of that stuff, Martin.
I like shiny stainless things. That's it.
Yeah.
But no, that gives me the pride knowing there's so many followers of that. I'm not sure any other companies got it. So
yeah, mega stuff, and probably the first commercially available, or certainly on a large scale, stainless kit.
I think Nashi did though.
Yeah,
if not before me,
Really?
Yeah, I think so. He'll tell you different.
I certainly from that. I think I sort of caught the edge of that era, and certainly your gear was the stuff that was most readily available to me growing up. But I feel like a lot of this is tied in with Save, and my feeling about you moving obviously to Colne Valley is that you're still quite young. You always seem to be the youngest of that group. That you sort of...
Yeah, John Harry used to say on Save, he thought I was playing truant.
Yeah. So you were lucky enough to look quite young, presumably?
Yeah, and again, I'll jump backwards to go forwards. At the time, I didn't drive.
Yeah.
But what happened, we went to... we were on the Darrenth at the time, and I was fishing a bit with Dave Wibley. And Zen turned up, who'd caught loads at Layer Pits. He was a well-known fella, Zen was. So... we were chattering away, and Lee Jackson had been up the Colne Valley and he'd caught this 40-pounder. Unbelievable. And all the lads that I knew had joined, Kevin Ellis, Jimmy Burns, Eddie Roth, Alan Partridge. So now we're thinking, shall we do a bit of a move around? I'll get in lift with Dave if I can. We've got to try and join this club. How are we going to do that? I know. I'll tell you what we do. We'll tell them we're firemen, and Zen was going to tell them he was in the army, Sergeant Boyko. So we've got the address and whatever. Henry Peplow was the fella that had to go to, and we gave him, due to the stress of our job, we heard how lovely the lake used to fish. We'd love to have a ticket. Any work party's required to do, we've got no problem with doing that. Thanks very much, let us know. Stamp stress envelope in there, off it went. Guilt got over me. Not good at telling lies, don't do it. So I gave it 3 or 4 days. I can't deal with this. And both myself and Dave were the same thing. How many firemen are we? So we wrote him another letter saying, look, ever so sorry, didn't mean to tell a lie, but we're just so eager to fish the water. We're not firemen, but we're just really keen anglers and we'd love to join, and we'll still obviously do the work parties. But the worst thing was, when we posted the letters off, they crossed in the post. Because the next day I got a letter back saying, anyone that's got a job like that serves the public like that, more than welcome in our club. No. Just said. Anyway, another few days went by. He sent another letter over saying, look, thanks for your honesty. Yeah, of course you're welcome in the club. It was a $5 to join. The following year it went up to a tenner, and half the members dropped out because I thought it was taking the piss. It was the old boys club, it was.
So this is North Harrow Waltonians,
yeah. North Hearts Club Lake, as we had to call it anyway. I think the first weekend I went down there, it's days only, so you're on and off with your kit. I got a lift from a friend of mine called Dylan. He was on Harefield at the time. And so he turned up on Friday, dump all your gear out, he'd go fishing, I'll see you Sunday.
Love that.
No mobiles or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're moving your kit around, you're sleeping in lay-by. He's not allowed to keep them in the car park there. And there's a few of the other lads down, the Essex boys. So first weekend, I'm sitting on the lawn swim. Off it's gone. To a 50-acre lake. This is a big pond compared to what I've been fishing. Lovely place. So off it's gone. I think it was 21. Later that day, over it's gone again. It was 29 PB for me. And it turned out to be chopped dorsal.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So this is incredible. What a night. What a day I've had. The following day, I've had the big one, 36. So I've jumped back in Dylan's car in the afternoon, on the Sunday afternoon, didn't mention the fishing at all. He didn't. I was itching to tell him like you would be. So we got halfway down the A40. Any good over there? No, nothing. He didn't expect I caught anything either. So I hadn't done too bad myself. Told him and he crashed the car. An hour.
But you were bursting to
Yeah,
tell him,
absolutely. This was
Yeah.
be October time.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was then. So we did get in on that. We held our hands up. We were in there, 5 at a joint, blah, 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 and so it went on. But what a great place to fish.
You've
And that-
had the big one though. I didn't. I don't think I realised the one that Jacko and Keith the Tooth had the same fish.
Yeah, and Zen
but
had it,
dropped
yeah.
back.
Yeah. But I'm not sure to this day the scales. I mean, the brass tubular sort of things. Yeah, an October fish shouldn't be smaller than it is.
No.
But whatever.
You probably had a 40-pounder.
I don't know. It was a big one.
But
And
what were you
that was
doing?
it.
What were your tactics looking like at this stage? Because I've fished the lawn swim, and it's the bars are
Yeah, a bit savage, aren't they?
incredible. Yeah.
Do you know what? As I now remember, you bringing it up, when I had the 30, they were so bad. I was fishing with like 40-pound mono leader, and at the time it was only 8-pound mono line, really, wasn't it? It was 10-pound, maybe 11-pound was like today's 15, 20. And I do remember that when I landed that fish, the hook link had tangled up, so it was about 2 inches long, and all the 40-pound behind it was shredded like a cheese string. And I remember when it went in the net, they're thinking if that hadn't tangled up that hook link, there was no way that
It would have just cut.
would
Do
be
you think
cut
it's
straight
cut?
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. The leads were dented to bits. There was no coated leads at the time. They were absolutely smashed to smithereens. Somebody cast them out half a dozen times. But yeah,
Boilie fishing
It was,
at
yeah.
this point. Yeah. And this is bait you're making yourself, presumably.
yeah, you didn't have a choice of those days. You made it yourself. We didn't go.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
No Richworth at that point. No.
They just started,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But prior to that, everyone that went carp fishing went and bought the ingredients, the flavours from wherever. I remember going to Bait 78 when that came out. 2 trains, 3 buses, and over there. Yeah, that was it. So by then, though, carp fishing is getting a bit more popular. And
With the bait side of things, obviously you went down that route with solar, but was it at that point you're still expecting that huge advances can be made if only you could discover them? Is that still on your mind with bait?
it's always on mine, even to this day.
Right.
You know, you're always looking for the holy grail, aren't you? Whether we already had it or not, the particles and what, I don't know, but it just sort of keeps it interesting trying to find something different.
So what did your bait look like around the
Sort of
Harrow
round
time?
and about 18 mil.
What about you? What about the recipes though, Martin? What are we talking at that stage?
Bird food was what it started off every week at Savay, because now at the same time we got into Harrow,
Yep.
we were also in Savay on a day ticket the first year. But the lads were helpful on there. You know, we'd leave gear with them overnight. Back you come, and they were a nice bunch. You know, again, you were in awe.
Yeah,
But
what faces
I knew
we
3 or
talking
4 of
about?
them. There was Roger, Albert Bromp, Bob Baker, Richie was on there at the same time. I could rattle the whole lot off.
Yeah.
I can't think of more at the minute. But there was one amusing thing. We got in, we did the day ticket thing, didn't catch any on that. But the crack was to get involved, to know the boys there on the syndicate, and hopefully they'll put a good word in for you to Peter Brock's up come the end of the year if anyone dropped out. And Zen being Zen, he was right crawling around Richie. Richie fancy the move. Give us a hand. Oh, that's all right, Richie, I'll give you a hand with your gear. There was no barrows then. Barrows actually did start off at Savile, I think, but then you were carrying it, or as Roger had, the old trolley, like the match trolley, you pull it behind you. Anyway, every time Richie wanted to move, Zen's all over him. I'll give you a hand, Richie. I'll give you a hand. Where'd you go? Colne Bank? No problem. Leave it to me. The following year, we got in the syndicate. So, of course, Richie's there, same thing. Come on, Zen, give us a hand. He said, fuck off. What do you mean? I'm in the syndicate now, carry your own fucking gear. It went on.
Do you know what, Martin? I'm not surprised. That canal bank, is it super long?
Yeah, it doesn't get any
Drag
shorter.
gear. No.
It was untrue. 2 or 3 trips to move your gear around if it's by hand. But that's what it was. We didn't know any different. But yeah, it's the same distance now as it ever was.
I imagine. Yeah, but it probably seems longer these days.
Yeah, right,
No, not with the power barrow though, mate. Surely
Well, I've
nowadays.
not been there. I
No.
don't know, since then. But you've got to hope your batteries don't pack up halfway there, haven't you?
I suspect so. But what did it feel like when you got the call from? Presume you got a call from Pete, did you, to say you're in?
I think you got a letter
Letter.
saying you've been successful.
So it drops through on the mat at
Punch in
home.
the air,
in
like,
Kent.
it was a moment. You know, but yeah, I think that would be. 86, pretty sure it was.
I mean, the syndicate's not been up and running that long, you know, in relative terms,
No,
is
I
it?
suppose
At that
not.
point?
Yeah, when we were on the day check, I remember a couple of things happening on there. That was Roger and Bob were obviously on the syndicate, Roger being a bailiff. So it comes to the winter before pub time, and obviously we went up there because we were on day check anyway, nothing else to do. So, would you fancy having a walk around the coal bank with us? We're sitting around, have a cup of tea before we go to the pub. All right, lovely. So we've going through the gate at the bottom of the canal bank was like entering another world. Unbelievable, you know. It was a fantastic lake, but when you went through there, it was just different. So we're going down there, fishing what was at the time second down from the rope, as Roger called it. It was just second down. Well, we all knew it was that. And third down, ball in the bag, so that's where Bob fished. So we were sitting in Roger's swim, and they're going to have a rechuck. And one shouted to the other. They both wound him in, got ready to cast out again. You ready, Bob? Yeah, I'm ready, Rog. Me and Dave looked at each other. What the fuck are they doing here? They'd had an area about 40 yards out, 50 yards out, where they reckoned it was a little bit deeper and they had a bit of action on there, so they're catching them in this hole. So anyway, Roger's got a horizon that's got like probably a pylon in it. Bob's got nothing. So what he did was, they've shouted, yeah, ready to go. Roger's cast out. As it's hit the water, he's gone donk, put his finger on the spool. It's gone down. At the same time, Bob's cast out into the ripple. He's put his finger on the spool. So now they're both in the same hole, but they're apart.
Yeah.
We looked at each other and went, fuck me, these two know the score. Because every time, up till that time, everyone cast out and pulled along back, make sure you weren't snagged or it was not in the weed, but that's where we went, pulled it, yeah, that's right, put the indicator on. This now was the first ever I've seen of sinking on a tight line. That
Feeling
we all do
let
now.
down sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fucking mad. Anyway, with that, got in the syndicate the following year. Still, it wasn't under wraps or anything like that. It was just what Roger and Bob did. So you'd be in the swim, have a recast. Just for the wind up. 4 or 5 people in the swim, have the chuck out. As it hit the water, stop it. Donk. Turn around and go 13'6". Like, fucking hell, he knows the score of this fella. What chance have we got?
Yeah.
So that was another thing that started, to my knowledge, on there.
Really? I mean, talk to me about the characters, because it feels important that we document these lads. You know, the likes of Roger.
Yeah.
Bob Baker. We're talking.
Bob Baker was on there.
Yeah.
Albert Rump.
I mean, those three
incredible characters. Richie was on there for a little while.
But as a younger guy, what were your sort of experiences with them in terms of the way they welcomed you and stuff?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. At first, I was a bit intimidated by it all, but because I knew Richie from Longfield and a few others at a distance, and also with Zen, who knew everyone. It was like you were made to feel part of it straight away. Really. Yeah. You were comfortable.
What about
obviously important?
What about the sort of renowned culture on those lakes? Did you immerse yourself straight into the horse and barge, the world of the horse and barge?
So the first year we had no choice for that.
Right.
But it just became what you did. Sometimes I look back and we used to, any excuse to go there, it was, the Toad Rotor haven't had anything between 7 in the evening and midnight last week. So we might as well go to the pub. And then they also haven't had anything between like 11 o'clock in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, so you might as well go to the cafe. That's how it worked. As Clive said on that recent podcast he did, he just went with the flow. We went all over the place. It was on, because everyone did the same thing, you was never going to put anyone's nose out of joint by doing what you're doing. We used to go to concerts at Wembley Stadium.
The Tina Turner one's famous.
Yeah, and the arena.
Yeah.
The Tina Turner thing was was it a night before the season started, I think. We all assembled down there and just happened to mention Tina Turner's on tonight down at Wembley Arena. Might as well go down there. Should we just tout tickets up? All right, so off we toddle. Me, Bob and Cyclops. One off, Steve, right from Bristol. So over we go. Outside the Wembley Arena. Yep. There you go, mate. 40 quid a ticket. In you go. What, block A, row 1? Nah. Right, we'll try it then. Here we go. So we went through it. It's like security every 10 yards. Yep, 3 you go, boys. 3 you go. 3 you go. I've been at loads of concerts before, but I ain't been block A, row 1 before. So as we walk through, we're right bang in, not just on the road, we're right bang in the middle. There's a point coming out off the stage, and we're here. Taylor Turner comes out. Right? Normally, I like to take in the atmosphere, all the, what's going on around me and the people going mad and the rest of it. Trust me, for them 2.5 hours, I didn't look anywhere but there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I tucked Taylor Turner's skirt for best I could. Anyway, and who wouldn't? And at the end of that concert, she leaned over and shook 3 hands, and it was myself, mate, and Bob and
No way.
Steve. Yeah, it was fucking mad.
Brilliant.
So sure enough, off we went, back home, met the boys in the Indian. Fishing hadn't even started yet. So a couple of 3 days in, I think it was the 18th of June. Shall we go again? It was so good, not much happening on the lake. And yeah, all right then. So 4 of us went this time, me, Kerry, and obviously the tickets weren't so good this time, but we'd done the job. So back we come to the lake, it's absolutely pouring down, and I mean monsoon, and we're around the coal bank. And it was often said walking around there, well, one of us deserves to catch Sally tonight. Yeah, sure enough. All right, boys, see you later. Rob Mayden's down this side, John Yateman's the other side. And I'm not really in the swim. It's a slope. It's called the hump swim, but there's a hump out there. Anyway, I come back, out they went. First thing in the morning, I was just on first light there, 4 o'clock. I've had the big drop back. Burst to go to the toilet. So I'm first, bound to be a tench. So I picked the rod up, started winding. The more I'm winding, I think, so I've moved a lot of line. I moved the lead a long way. It'll be a tench. Perhaps it's not. All of a sudden, it went right underneath Rob Mayden's rods. I realised it was like a carp on the end. And first thing I'm thinking, I've just gone right over his lines. He's going to strike me off in a minute. Thankfully, it didn't. Next problem, I didn't work out how I'm going to get down to net the fish. It's a great big slope. It's soaking wet as well, so it's slippery as you like. It's about 12 foot straight off the edge there. Virtually a sheer drop. Right, worry about that. The time comes, got it around the edge, and all of a sudden from the left to right, there it was. Sally's cruised past me. Fucking hell, lads. And that moment, you're absolutely cacking it. Sally got caught once a year, and I think when I've missed it for 2 or 3 years, 70 acre lake with about 100 carp in it's going to, isn't it? Never been caught in the coal bank. And Sally's crew, flipping out, I went to jelly. But I've gone down there, do the job, bang, it's in the net. Oh, my life, like, what's this? What's this going to do?
Pride of the
what
Valley.
I've got.
Yeah,
the only carp ever with a good song name. Anyway, somehow I've managed to sort it all out. I think when I did an article for Gaz Farron's book, I said put it on a hooking mat. There wasn't such thing as an unhooking mat then. It was just put it on the nearest bit of grass, which it was. And it was a moment. So back she went. It was 3 of us there, myself, Rob Mayden, Johnny Yateman. I remember us shouting, Sally, over the lake, and everyone knew.
Yeah.
And that was on the 19th of June, 87, which is exactly to the year that Tony had it the year before, to the same weight, 39. And it never got seen after that, never since.
Really? Yours was the last capture?
Yeah.
And it sits across me now in the middle of your logo.
It turned out,
yeah,
it's a sort of bit of a respect to Sally. That's the most printed picture in carp fishing, isn't it? No one else has got it in there.
Been going on for a long time now, hasn't it? So, how big was it, Martin?
39.
So, talk to me about how much of an impact that had on the national scene at that time, a 39-pound common.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, there was only... There was a Carp Society magazine come out twice a year. Angling Times, Anglers Mail.
Were they onto you for this for the pictures?
Yeah. Yeah, but at the time we were doing slides, and they were what was it called? The yellow boxes. You had to send. You couldn't do it at the
like processing sort of stuff.
Processing. You had to send them off. Kodachrome. So send them off. Wait till they come back, and then you'll send a slide out to each of them. Right? You're going to get it back.
Yeah.
But, it was slow processing those days compared to what it is now.
Did you get a cover out of it anywhere?
I don't think so.
No. Still a huge fish. What was the Solar logo before that then? Did you have some kind of logo at that point, or was it?
Yeah, it was a little bloke fishing with one rod over
Was it?
like a reed bed. I've got them indoors somewhere, yeah.
So if anyone's got a Solar product with that logo on, that must be pretty rare. The original
it was only on the letterhead.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah,
so when you started to reproduce it, it was with Sally.
Yeah.
In there. Who designed the logo for you?
What it was a picture of the capture.
Yeah.
But Bernie Stamp at the time, he was working in the art studio, and what he did was carefully cut it out, printed it, cut it out, raised it up a little bit so it was sitting higher on my chest, so it fitted into an O.
Yeah.
Down it went, and there we go.
Yeah.
That was it. So
mad. I mean, at that point, I want to ask you a little bit about. Save was obviously a melting pot for the, you know, populated by some of the best carp anglers in the country. Stuff like the Looney extension rig, things like that. Is that your?
Yeah, I caught Sally on that.
Did you?
Yeah, what it was to try and use a bigger bait.
Yeah.
With a smaller hook, with the whole thing all being a bit wobbly about this. Do you know what? Somewhere I've got the hook link I caught Sally on.
Really?
Just a little hair, a bit of an extension tube like you'd have on. Anyway, it was just made a small hook, very big.
What hooks were you using at the time? Can you remember what they were? What they would have been? Would it have been like your super specialist type thing?
No,
before
I'll tell
that?
you know what I was using, 'cause I used to use them as well, was Gary Newman.
Yeah.
So we'll have to ask him at some stage. I forget what it was.
We had Gary on like 2 weeks ago.
Some Japanese make, he'd know what it was. Yamaha or something like that.
But so basically the principle was you had a small hook with an extended shank and a long, was it a long like a D or something like that on the back, or hair?
Just a great big long, big. I can't remember now, Rich, to be honest.
Yeah, but the principle was that it was a right mouthful.
Yeah, once you went in, it wasn't coming out.
Yeah, and what?
This is the same ethos we use nowadays, isn't it? Whatever goes in, don't come out.
Yeah,
What's that?
Well, it sort of almost can't turn back on itself. Is that was the?
Well, my was right. It just trips back. The whole lot goes in.
Yeah.
And when it comes out, it just grabs it on the way out.
So obviously, it was a fertile place for the rig development, mine, but it lent its name, Save did, to bait as well that you did.
Yeah, for sure. It was the rigs. It was the bait. Even more so, really, the bait than the rigs. The Save seed mix just came about. By chance, really, as it was at the time, we're all going to all the meetings we can go to, all the slide shows and whatnot. I remember going up with Kevin Ellis to one in a Birmingham area, and what had happened that summer, we'd all been putting in the papers were the only way to keep in contact with people. Not everyone had a telephone even. So Angling Times every week, what we were catching, and I say the bait side of things was moving on really quick. Every time you went down for the next rota, someone had something they'd found that might be any good in the bait, and we'll try it the next time. And so it was just, everything was just moving at such a rate. And we started catching loads of using bird food and stuff, and the various flavours and bits that went with that. And I remember it was in the papers every week, virtually, the bird food mixes. So I get to this meeting, and on the wall, nothing to do with anyone at Save, said, "Coming soon, the bird food bait that the boys in the Colne Valley or Save have been catching them on." I said, "I'm not having that."
Yeah, who's behind this?
Right. So at that moment, I decided, right, as of now, I'm going to look into doing bait. So on the Monday, I'm looking about where I want to get it now. As with a lot of good baits, there's a bit of semolina involved. The Haiths for the Red Factor and the other bird foods and Robin Reds and whatnot, standard. Everyone knew about that even before this came around. Even though I say at this time, there was still no boilies ready-made available. Rich was started doing it very soon after that, but in this case, 99% of anglers at that moment were making their own bait. So, no internet, nothing like that. All you had to find out was any contacts or anything was this thing called a Kelly's Directory, which was a book about 4 inches thick, with paper thin as a Bible sheet. You know, there was so many, it was like 3,000 pages in there.
This is the Google of its day.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, a bit simpler than that. For the semolina, I thought, well, the number one name, the first one you think of was Whitworth's. Right, so I get on the phone to them, and I want to make it sound like I'm bigger than I am. I don't know about, if someone says MOQ to me, I'd say, sorry, what do you mean? So anyway, got through the sales on there. Yeah, how much are you after? I said, well, 2 ton, sensible amount, yeah, no problem. Right now, at the time, it still does, Mum lives in a dead-end road, a small road, in the middle of a terrace townhouse. By now, I've taken up the bottom floor of the house, which had a utility room and a garage, and most of the rest of the house as well. Yeah, my mum gave up everything for us, whether it was taking me down to the fishing at Dartford Park or it was taking over the house and everything in between. She was running the whole thing for me and allowing me to do what I did. She was packing the boxes, I was making the gear. Then Nobby Smith, a friend of mine, lives in Australia now. He was helping me out, Todd was helping me out, but between us we managed to sort the whole thing out. Anyway, this was just slightly before that, this bait went on. So, yeah, 2 ton of semolina, when do you want it delivered? Anytime you like. I remember being up in the kitchen, and all of a sudden it was like an eclipse going on. The whole room went dark, and outside I can see this biggest lorry you've ever seen in your life, Whitworth's down the side of it. I mean, what must the neighbours think now? It's bad enough with parcel force coming every day, let alone this thing. Right, so like I said, I'm in the middle of a terraced townhouse. There's just enough room to get your little van or your car on the driveway, that's it. Fella gets out the cab. She said, got a piece of paper in his hand. Solar sack, that's it. He said, have you got a forklift? I turned around and I looked around and said, what do you fucking think? Anyway, bloke's got the hump now. He wants it just lifted off the pallets and done. At the time, forget health and safety with the weight of bags that are like 25 kilo now. These were 50 kilo sacks. So I've got a shed at the bottom of the garden, 8 foot square with one mixer in it. I've got to get these sacks down there. So sure, it's the first one I'm out there, drops it on my shoulder, cart it up the garden, dropped it. By the time I got back, he's just dumped 10 on the pavement. And a different story altogether from picking up 50 kilo off the floor. When the sacks are not solid, they go like a beanbag. Real fucking bad news. So lumped that on my shoulder. By the time I've got to the end of it, I've got a row of soldiers from the shed all the way back where I can't carry them through, all the way through the house, and I can barely shut the front door. And I had to do it quickly, the last 2 or 3, because it's starting to rain in the paper sacks. That was that. And at that moment, I thought, have I bit off more not and chew here? Anyway, I managed to load it all up in the shed. And that year, I remember we did, through one mixer, doing 40 kilo at a time, we did 17 tonne of those mixes, which for those days was ridiculous. You couldn't get in the boxes quick enough. But the results were there. And people were catching them. Then the flavours came along with it, and rather than being one that puts the flavour into a jug and pours the jug into the 100 ml, I'll get a little machine that does that as well. Little vacuum machine. I think it was like a couple of these weird, look like brandy jars that worked when you shoved the bottle underneath, and it's the suction sucked it all through, and it worked, and that's how the boat started, really.
Dairy cream, were you talking that kind of thing at this stage?
Before that.
Really?
Yeah. This was red and yellow seed mixes. The only difference was a load of Robin Red in the red one, and the other one was natural yellow.
Okay. And what about your flavours? What were the early ones?
Squid was one of the first ones.
Was it?
Yeah.
Obviously one of the most famous flavours ever to have been used.
Yeah, I think that's one of the first things people think about if they think of the solar bait. Yeah, very successful.
And was solar a success at this point? Were you having to come to terms with a business that was probably taking over more of your life than you'd expected?
So what? It started off so that I can go. My ideal world was on Sunday I'm going to Savay for 7 days, and the following Sunday I'll turn up home again. And when I work, I will absolutely be flat out all the hours that I can possibly stand up to get me able to go the following Sunday. And once it got to a stage where it was getting a bit too busy, there was a few more shops taking it on board, and I couldn't go until Tuesday. But Mum was the one that would say, look, if you haven't, I don't know, we might have 500 or 600 kilo bait already in bags, 1,500 monkey climbers, 200 of each of these, the fixed buzzer bars and whatnot, a few hundred bank sticks. Well, you can't go now because we're going to run out. You have to make some more. Make me go. Hardest thing ever was to get up after you've had your dinner in the evening, go down that garage and do it again.
In the dark?
No, we had light in our house, did you?
No, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, there's no natural light, Martin, is what I'm saying.
No. So there was radio went on, and that was it, and you just had it. So that box there is converted and all put into the next operation. It's all in this box. I'm staying here, whether it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
That was it, because I had to get to Savay the following Sunday. And when I couldn't get there till like the Tuesday, I was like, well, it's hardly worth going. Now I've only got 5 days. That's how it got. And it got worse and better and better if you want to look at it. Because I was first and foremost an angler. This was geared up so that I can go fishing when I like. Now it went back to fishing weekends, which clearly wasn't the one. But it wasn't enough.
And at that stage, a weekend at Savay presumably was pretty full on anyway.
For the lads that caught anything that did weekends, that was anything at all, it was quite an achievement.
Because you were at the pub half the time as well.
But if you caught, I don't know, 3 or 4 a year doing weekends, and it tapped me out after the lads that did, just kept coming, because it was, now this carp fish is more than what you're catching, it's where you're at and who you're with. It's the whole thing, isn't it? It's not about just what you've caught. And that's why it was such a great atmosphere there that people kept coming down. If they had, say, 3 or 4 a year, That was to be commended, you know.
Mm.
Other times we were on there, myself, Roger and Kerry, on the Sunday, there'd be only 3 there on 70 acres. And you actually need a few more people there just to split around and see what's where. Because I say, it was an incredible lake because it had the island that was so long, it was like a racetrack, if you like.
Yeah.
And those fish moved quick on there.
Mm.
And you need a few more people down just to share the information, if you like. And
did your results hold up? You know, let's say, did you do sort of better than average on Save, would you say?
yeah, if you did the week, you did.
Yeah.
For sure. I think the best year I done there was like 20 odd fish.
Mm-hmm. And a proportion of 30 pounds amongst those, presumably.
Yeah, I think it was about a third.
Yeah.
Which in those days was good to go.
And these are old carp. They're quite.
They're all the sort of the ones that have been in Hutch's book, whether it was the only one of the names I didn't catch, I think, was Sally's mate.
Okay.
But Popeye's mate, the famous lizard that was about £13, that hardly had any fins on it. The thick-head fish, to name but a few.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're all so, like you were so pleased to catch anything on there that everything was memorable.
And presumably you were sort of accepted amongst these huge characters, you know, they're like, so we're going to talk a bit about Albert as well, you know?
Yeah.
Like Albert still out there doing it, isn't he?
Well, he was up to a little while ago, but at the moment, unfortunately, he's had a stroke.
Oh, really?
He's in hospital. He's lost the use of his right hand side.
Okay.
But most thought-provoking person you ever meet, you know, I can't put it into words. You need to be sitting next to him. Apart from he's the funniest man you're ever going to meet, even now, laying in a hospital bed. His way of looking at things to get you, like your mind turning over about what might be the next thing to do to get the takes, why the fish are moving here, the weather conditions. He was so far into it on another level. Roger, same sort of thing, in a different way completely. Roger would be, you know, my approach on there was using a lot of bait, because my mind was when they're on that track round, hopefully you're going to try and stop them. And I used to take up a bucket, you know, the old brewer's bucket, a bit taller than normal, like a 10 kilo bucket. I think it had 17 kilo of powder in it. I used to make the bait on the bank after the calf, depending on what swim you're in. So if you're fishing it a long way out along that canal bank, just make bigger baits. And if you're fishing closer, smaller ones. I made it every day, virtually. And I never went home with more than an inch of powder in the bottom of that bucket. You'd put 24 eggs a day, and we'd just sit there and roll it up between us, make the big ball of dough in the car park, back to the swim, sit and roll it out between 2 or 3 of us. Wasn't even a chore.
It's just as well you had 5 days.
Yeah, boil it up and then let it climb out the pan. There's none of this timing it for 30 seconds, otherwise it'll, you know, it's going to upset the ingredients or anything like that. When it climbed out the saucepan, we just poured it out on the landing net. Done. Roger caught one once on a hot one. He picked it out. Yeah, he took it out, cast it out. Within a minute later, it went off. It hadn't even got cold yet. So yeah, his approach was different. He didn't use much bait. Didn't move about a lot, but very laid back, and that's how a lot of the lads were on there, because everyone had been to waters all over the country, nothing to prove. They're all just there for a good time and the challenge, and that's 100% what it was.
What's the story behind Albert's greedy pig rig then, Martin?
Do you know when I think it was a big Gardner brought out the PVA string?
Yeah,
remember it in a little packet there. He stretched it out. It went about 4 times as long as it was. Everyone, when that came out, it was such a novelty that everyone was using it on all their rods. So let's say you got weekends, 10, 12, 15 if you're down there, all using 3 rods, all casting them out regularly, all catching not a lot. But every time, his theory about the carp being clever and whatever, and a bit wary, no, I'm not sure how true it is now, but then it was believable. Every time you wind in, there's 3 baits laying there that the fish are safe, they feel confident picking them up. So yeah, Albert started using 3 baits on the hair. Bad flipping idea really, what can go wrong. I remember the first weekend I did it, just for 2 nights, I had 4 big roach, I don't know how.
What?
4 tench and 4 carp. Whether that was the reason for it, I don't know, but it was a really good theory to put into practice, and it did work. And quite how those roach were getting it anywhere near the hook, I have no idea, because the baits they couldn't get in their mouth. But that's just what it did, and it was just another one of those little things that worked for a while. And it was, you know, Albert picked up on something,
Yeah, it's good. I mean,
no one else had
everyone's betting up for him with these 3-bait
Yeah.
stringers. And he's like, yeah.
There's hundreds of them laying out there.
Yeah.
And the fish, anything that picked that up has never been caught on it before. So why wouldn't it work? And sure enough it did. But we can't work out how the roach picked it up.
No.
So I don't bother trying.
Albert seemed to be this kind of real mix of someone, like you say, hugely funny, but then equally very, very serious about his fishing in the same breath.
Yeah. But at the same time I knew Albert well enough to know when he was on a wind-up, when he wasn't. Because as Clive mentioned in that podcast, he was half the time he was trying to throw you off a scent, chuck your red herring, he'd get me to move and I didn't want to move. And as I'm pulling my bank sticks out, he'd put his bank sticks in there.
And you'd know.
And he's just, I've been done.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And other times he was very sensible and he was talking straight to you. I remember going down to his pond, and where he used to live, around at Slough, and he'll throw a bit of bait in the pond and says, "What's this?" They're only goldfish, 4 inches long. They're not carp. All right, Albert. He says, just keep an eye on it. Within 5 minutes, the pond, I'm talking about a very small garden pond, much bigger than this table. Next thing you know, you see him bubbling going on it. You never see bubbling in a pond. Next thing, the goldfish are crashing out.
What?
Acting like 30-pound carp, crashing out in a 18 inches deep pond. It's like he's just raised his eyebrows. Told you. And all that going on. And you have to work the rest of it out. Fucking hell, but the man was just like so into his fishing and everything about it that, it's a tragic shame what happens now. But
you still see him though?
I went to visit him before Christmas. He's in a care home at the moment. And things don't look good.
Okay, well we send Albert our best.
Yeah,
absolutely.
for sure. Yeah, I'll go and visit him again soon.
Where did the Lucky Lockie thing come about? Because that must be around this sort of time that
that was Albert.
Was it?
Yeah. What happened? I was in the North Bay, really weedy area of the lake, and the fish got stuck. And I ended up going, I've done it before a few times on other lakes, walking to another swim to get another angle on it, casting over with a spare rod, wound it in, retied it, and managed to catch what was at the time the biggest fish out of Savay that year. So I won the little Savay Cup, 36. That was lucky then. And then shortly after that, got run over. It's quite well documented, but that is what it was. I come out the horse and barge. They started with Albert actually saying, "Come, we go early," which means we go at 5 and come back before dark. So we put rods out. I said, "I don't know, Albert, I know what's going to happen with me. I'm going to end up going early and staying late." No, stay with me. We'll be all right. So something to eat, we come back. All right. Sure enough, as I come out the horse and barge, all the rest of the lads from Harefield, from the Cons, from the fisheries, they're all coming into the pub. Albert walked back and went, "I'm staying." So at the end of the evening, Alan Clark, Les Bamford, they got some little sideshow going where they got these Chinese fireworks. They thought it was hugely amusing to bend over the tables outside the pub. They got a bit of cardboard heat shield with a hole in the middle of it. I think it was Alan bent over. Fireworks between the cracks of cheeks of his backside. Les lighting them, off they go. Right? There must have been over 100 people watching that. It was so funny, I tell you.
Well, those don't try this at home moments. Yeah.
So show's over. I've got to walk back to the lake. I haven't gone 10 yards. Next thing you know, I'm laying on the floor. So I remember virtually word for word. Dougal, another legend of that time and era, was sitting over the top of me. "What's the matter, Dougal?" He said, "No, you've been hit by a car." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, No, you've been hit by a car. You've had an accident." I said, "Stop it." I said, "Look, I'm in the North Bay. I'm on the fish. I'm going back." "No, you can't go back. You've been hit by this car." And my worst thing was, "Is it bad?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, in that case, I better lay here then." That was it. Now, one of the lads put a T-shirt behind the back of my head, and I remember him picking up, wringing it out, the blood. And but I think because I was knocked, they say 30 foot in the air. That's a long way off. Either way, I wasn't there, but I didn't know to measure it, right? 30 foot in the air and 60 foot into the car park. And the car that hit me come over the humpback bridges by the horse and barge, lost control, hit one curb, hit the other curb, bounced up, and then come to rest on a lamppost. So if I'd have been 3 or 4 feet in front of where I was standing, chances are your head would have been knocked off. As it was, it glanced on my leg, over I went in the car park, and that was it. So when the ambulance came, the two of the lads that were in the car ran off. And the boys were all there, Stuart Gillam, Curly, loads of lads, Rob Malin, all the boys there. They chased after them and like grabbed hold of them. They said, "You've just killed my mate." And when the ambulance came, apparently it went to this fella first. He was in such a beating, he wasn't breathing. Anyway, I've got up to the hospital, see emergency. I got about 10 people around me now. I think it's pretty serious. And I remember laying in that hospital for 3.5 weeks. But when I looked down, there was no mark on my leg. There was a cut on my elbow and the back of my head a little bit. So, obviously, they filled you full of drugs to keep you, from any pain. And I remember them saying, we're going to pop down and see how your leg is. I said, well, it feels fine to me. We'll have a check anyway. So, all right, do as you like. Anyway, I came out of there, they said, it is broken, so we're going to operate that. So I take it was swollen up, that leg got down a bit. Anyway, I said, okay, if you've got to operate and do it. Anyway, went into the operating theatre, came out. I mean, it was my thigh was the same size all the way down. So from just under my knee to above my ankle, there's a big cut in there, and it was as thick as my thigh all the way through. And the colours, was like, when you got a shirt that it's too small for you, and the buttons are like under tension. That's what the stitches were like. I looked there, and the colours were just the most horrendous.
Oh my God!
Anyway, the doctor come around. He said, I said it was fairly bad broken. Then by the look of it, he said it was like a packet of cornflakes in there. But I didn't want to sell you.
Ooh.
Whatever. But to this day, I have to say, it's never really given me any trouble.
That's
in
incredible,
the winter
really,
a bit, though.
isn't
It does
Yeah.
get a little bit like if I've been pushing the barrow around or whatever. You get some days where it's really sore, and then the next morning it's okay again. So
You got a bit of stainless.
that was
in
another
there. Is
one.
that the-
Yeah, right. It's like you remember Barry Sheen, the old motorcycle. This is like that with about 20 odd pins screwed through there. So again, that was where the old Lucky Lockie come along. When Albert walks in, that was lucky. I said, what do you mean lucky? So it'd been lucky if I was 6 foot back from where I was stood. But that was a mad thing. There were so many people walked to that moment across that car park, and how it only fit me, I'll never know. But thankfully, it was only me. So yeah.
At least you could appreciate the engineering that went into the repair job, Martin, as well. Yeah.
Was that Mike?
Fair enough.
Was that the only injury you sustained to your leg? You didn't nothing to the back of your head? That
Probably
was
lost a few
serious?
marbles like that. No problem.
That was.
Yeah,
I say
a
that's
tiny
it.
ball
I
patch
mean,
on the back there, I think. But other than that, no,
I mean, that really is lucky, isn't it? Because that could have been.
really.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
well,
I suppose. Yeah.
You see,
if it was stood in front of where it was, where that car came to rest on a lamppost, still bent there now. I think
Jesus,
it would have
Christ.
took someone's head off if they were stood in front of me.
How old were you, Martin, at that point?
About 23,
So it's really young,
Wow.
like still.
I suppose.
But
So-
good powers of recovery,
Well,
presumably.
tell you what, the joke was when this lad, I never met him after this happened, but apparently he got fined £100 and 6 points.
Mate, is that it?
Yeah,
That's
he left the ground doing 70 there, I reckon.
Had he
when
been
I measured it
drinking?
all out. No.
no, he hadn't been drinking.
But
Just
the
been-
joke was, at the time, remember we had the 2 rod limit? Keith the Tooth, another great character on Savvy, was down in Ringwood fishing on the lake there, and he got nicked for 3 rods, and he got fined 120 quid. I said, you should have run me over, Keith, save yourself 20 quid.
How quickly were you able to? I mean, did the passion for fishing remain?
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were itching to go the whole time.
I did go to
discharge
broken
me.
leg.
Yeah. Did you?
Oh, well, I've got the. It wasn't a lot of full cast. It was a bent in the knee, with it on the top and the bottom. But I still managed to get out and casting them like a heron. Stood there on one leg, banging it out. They're not on Savvy, but other places where I can get a lift to.
Yeah.
Wow, fair play.
So that was still all good then. And I had that caster. That was in July that happened, and I had the caster summer form on until the following February. I was in the hospital for 3.5 weeks, which is quite a long time for a broken leg, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah. Savage.
Yeah, it was one of those things, isn't it?
Did the boys come and see you?
Yeah, every night. Yeah.
Really?
Everyone came in. I never ate hospital food for one single night I was in there. It was all when the mobile phones just turned up, as it happens. So thankfully that saved my business as well, because I could tell Tom and my mum where's what in the the little Rubik's Cube organisation that I had down there. The Motorola thing.
Wow.
So every night it was like, what do you want tonight? Well, we had Kentucky one night, we'll have the pizza the next night, we had Chinese, you name it. I didn't eat one time to eat.
Put a stack of weight on in hospital.
Yeah.
The hospital staff start recognising your friends as they come in.
Yeah, sure enough. Everyone came in. It was absolutely as good as it can possibly be.
Amazing.
It was done.
What? They obviously loved you. You know,
wouldn't
you
say
obviously.
that.
No, I mean,
No, it was a band of brothers on there.
that's what I mean.
No,
Yeah.
There was no one who was better than anyone else. It was everyone was equal.
Mm.
Fantastic atmosphere there.
Yeah. These are people that you've known for a few years now, and you've endeared yourself to the point where they're going to bring food to you at your hospital bed. It's quite something, I think.
Yeah. Now you put it like that, yeah.
And you're fishing on Savay. Did that continue unabated after that point? How long were you on there, Martin? At the end?
I think I did about 7 years on there.
Tough to leave, presumably.
7 years. No, what happened, when it went on with the boat incident,
Yeah.
that was kind of like I'm thinking, nah, this is enough for me. What went on there it's been documented, but I'll say it, so those that haven't heard about it. There was, on the work parties like happens on most lakes, we're doing that, and Savay was no exception.
Mm.
Peter who run it was he was the bollocks, a really nice fella. The rules are what he says, that's it. And everyone had respect for him. You can say what you like to him, and don't have to mind your P's and Q's, he'll give you the same back. If you're going to have a man run the lake, he's a man. And we used to do the work parties and go out to his island where his missus had made the pork pies, sandwiches, bottles of beer, can of Coke, whatever it would be. So this particular day, there's probably, 25, 30 of us there. And there was a punt that went backwards and forwards to take you over. And two lots of the guys had gone over, probably about 8 or 10 on the punt. We're the last punt on. And it was 4 of us. And unexplained even to this day, we're going across about 50 or 60 yards, I suppose. Got about halfway, all of a sudden, the punt corners start leaking and the boat's going down. And I haven't swum since I was like 16, but you can't forget to swim. As it's going down, the weird thing was that where you've seen the bank, when you're standing up, you can see the bank's contours. It was now a straight line. But I knew where I had to get to. Keith Selleck, he went off first. Don Hipkin was with me, or next to me rather. He was next. Clive Rigby, so I can't swim. Clive, you're going to have to try. And I grabbed hold of him. Now, I couldn't in the end. 2 or 3 times I tried to move him with me to get him dog paddle, do whatever, and it didn't happen. I watched his head go straight under. I could go back and say, if I'd learnt life saving at school, I could have saved him. But what I do know is, same with Clive Williams actually went in after Keith Selleck. He went off first, strongest. He couldn't have been 10 or 15 yards from the bank when he went down, lost his energy. This is on May the 1st, it happened. It wasn't a particularly warm day, it wasn't particularly cold, it was just a normal day, spring day. I remember taking the old Kevin Maddox jumper off, the army jumper. That's probably seen the lake now. I think it'd make it easier for me. But the people that were on the bank, there was a bit of shouting, couldn't come and help. They were more frustrated, kind of, because they couldn't do anything. And to this day, I've never cried a tear over it, because I know those boys up there know we tried our damnedest that day. And that's what happened.
And the lake was never the same, presumably,
Not
that
for me.
night for you.
No, I sort of had the best of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Peter passed away, I think it was was it the first day of the season, playing a fish, he had a heart attack. Now that for me was that, I've done what I can do now. But no doubt now the boys that are on there are having the best time of their life as well. So, but I'll have to go back to a story about Peter Broxup. Every year the Savay car park meeting was like, you had to go to that. Purely because, not the rules aren't going to change, it was nice to be back there, but you had to go there to see who Peter would ever go at. Anyway, prior to that winter, I'm on there. I was the only one on the lake. This would be, January time. Foggy, dank, gloomy. What am I doing here? But I was there. And a lot of the time, Peter wouldn't turn up for the winter at all. So, not that mattered. Jim Martinez came down, and the rule was on there, you can fish 3 rods, but you've got to put the 3rd rod away in the daytime. He's told the water authority you're not to come round between 8 in the morning and 8 in the evening. That was in the summer, but in the winter you could put the 3rd rod out as it got dark. So that was it. And boys, when you do it, you fold the rod away, you put it in your bivvy and keep it out of the way. Okay? And no one would ever go past that. And 8 o'clock in the morning, not 1 minute past, 8 o'clock, that rod had to come in. So anyway, I've got it down. Jim comes up and chatting away. I'll shut that 3rd one. He said, Roger catches them right. There's a bit of gravel out there, 40 odd yards out. So all right then. So I got the rod out the been there for the night before, still got the pop up on it. Whacked it out, went like that. Oh, that's it then. As I did that, swung it in. Peter standing there. Fucking. All right, my son, how's it going? I said, all right, Peter. I felt really wrong. I was doing that, but I was just cast it out. I know it looked like, but it wasn't. Anyway, Peter's carried on walking. Walked up to the gate or whatever. 10 minutes later, he's come back. All right, see you later. Off we go. No problem. Chucked it out, didn't catch anything. Anyway, the car park meeting comes. So Peter goes, right, the rules are the same as last year, the score. He said, in that third rod, he said, it's 8 o'clock in the evening to 8 o'clock in the morning in the summer. It's 8 o'clock in the morning until on dark in the winter. And that includes you, Mr. Martin Lucky fucking Locke. I said, but Peter, I said, all I was doing was just finding my spot out there, just put it back. He said, what, with a fucking pop-up on? He then invades your space, right? He's a big presence, Peter was. He comes right up to you. You think I'm some sort of... Well, if the ground could swallow you up, all the boys are kicking gravel about. They can't laugh. It's Peter. 30 of them all. Anyway, after that, he said, 10 minutes out, he said, all right, son, don't worry about it. He said, I had to have a go at someone, but no one's pulled a stroke this year, have they? That was it. Like.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a good little tale, that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the characters made the lake, didn't they?
Without a doubt. Everything did. Everything together.
I mean, and a beautiful lake, of course.
Absolutely.
But you stayed in the valley after that. Was this when you went back to Harrow?
Yeah, I was fishing both of them on and off. So really, looking back on it, how lucky was I?
I mean, Harrow it's approaching its absolute peak, wasn't it, at this stage?
I guess so. I didn't fish it absolutely loads and loads. I was more on Savvy, really. But it was a few years after. I think I remember going down one winter and there was a couple of lads catching them in a middle area of the lake. I was sitting there with Dave Wibley in one of the next two swims, if you like. And at the end of it, this Stevie Curtin and Alan Parsons, next swim down or two, another couple. I said, Dave, this is not us. We don't follow in next door to someone. So tomorrow I'll go back down the lawn, do my own thing, see what happens. Who knows? Might catch my first 40-pounder. That's what you're after, I haven't done it. Anyway, next day, sure enough, popped down there, shut some out, and had to put the fish in the net. It looked very close to it. So I was on my own there. When I got the boys, 2 or 3 of them came down. They weighed it. It's the dish, 40 pound on the nose. Mad. Done the job on it. So like they would be, like buses. I went on, Leeds used to go on the Thursday, Jacko. So I went back up with him on the Thursday. Same swim, put them out again. 41 something. Incredible.
Not fishing that anyone had at that time, really, was it? Brace
no,
of 40s
it was
and
unbelievable.
2 trips.
So after all those years of not catching any, I think I did have my first one when Shantycock was very first on the scene. I went over there and the first one was from there, but the English ones are 2 in, one on Sunday and one on the Thursday.
Amazing.
So it's mad, really.
Yeah.
And the winter went on so well as well, a few 30s after that. And it's kept us going.
Savvy seed mixes still? Same sort of approach?
Yeah, and fish baits and whatnot. I can't remember exactly what it was now.
But obviously, the very famous bait that you had was the club mix, which presumably...
It wasn't around then.
No?
No.
But it was developed on that lake,
It was one we called the Neptune mix, yeah. Paul Ford had joined the lake, and they did, because Paul being a builder, they said if you install us some toilets there and proper jobs, with the big, big tank underground or whatever, give you a ticket. Well, that was it. Paul, as we know, he was absolutely red hot. It's tragic what's happened to him. The first morning, I remember, I think I was nowhere near there, but the first morning, I remember him calling me up. He just put a load of hemp in the swim, a few tigers, where they'd had a snag tree pulled out the week before at a work party. And you're on there from 4 o'clock in the morning onwards. He'd had 6 by 9 o'clock in the morning.
No.
This lot. Fish hadn't realised that the tree wouldn't be there when they got there.
Yeah.
He absolutely ironed it out.
Interesting. I read a little bit of an interview with Jacko from back in the day. It was in an old carp fisher.
Right.
I dug out, and he talks about Paul being the only angler that he was ever intimidated by when he said we used to come on the lake and I'd be like, oh no, this guy's a different level.
Oh no, we weren't like that.
No,
we were battling each other. And the club mix came around from him putting the best bits of his bait together and me putting what I consider were the best bits of mine. That's how it started out.
Can you tell us a little bit about what they were and how they sort of?
If I tell you that, we should have to iron it out. Fair, would it?
But it's fair to say that the main attractor was, or the attractor was the squid and octopus that you talked about. Yeah, the famous.
Yeah. There was various other bits from supermarkets, and that, whether it was oyster sauce and soy bits and pieces. We got that together, and straight away we were catching them, but didn't really start fishing on there till, I know, October, let's say, has come together. And I remember over the period of the next 8 weeks, there'd been 7 or 8 fish out, and we'd had all of them. So we're chasing around there. We're back to, when the days that Paul was there, I was trying not to be there, if it makes sense, because we both had the same ideas we wanted to be.
Yeah.
But some days we were, and the fish being called chopped dorsal, we fucking started taking the piss out of it. It was scruffy fin, and so we were walking around hunched over. He's on one bank and I'm on the other, with like a spray of twigs on your back, running up and down, making out it's that one. We're going to catch him. That's that. Anyway, a particular day came. Paul was coming the next day, so I took a guest up there, and I'd been there the night before. If you imagine the lake shaped like a pork chop, so I'm at the big end, right at the meaty end. You've had to walk down from the thin end, so it's quite a wander here. It's got to be probably not half a mile, but out far off it. Anyway, put some baits out, spread them around, nothing happened, stayed there till it's 9 o'clock in the winter time and 6 o'clock back on. It's too far to drive home, so it's a long, it's not easy choosing which lay-by to live in. If it's frosty out, you got the brolly was, I didn't have a big enough van to sleep in at the time, so the brolly was laid against the van, and if it was windy, you had to nail that down somehow. And then before the time comes to get back on the lake, close it all up, put it all back in, outside. And when we were catching them, there's a gentlemanly thing on there, when if you were there the day before, then you got to swim. But that works all right. But the first day of the session, if you like, and I was only doing like maybe 2 at a time, not 3, it was too much. The first day, you had to try and beat everyone else there, because they don't know you're coming, so therefore you ain't got a bang choice. So the crack was then, right, you're allowed on at 6, I'm going to get there at 4. I'll sit outside the gate, and about 5:30, 5:45, I'll turn the engine on again. So if anyone turns up now, you've done me, I've just got there. Because what had happened then is, if you didn't do that, if you said you got there at 4, the week after they'd be there at 3:30. So you've got the mind games going on as well. And I've got now the things that Albert wind-ups going on, I'm now remembering them. If I wanted to know if someone had been in a swim or not when I wasn't there, I'd put a stick or a twig in the middle of a swim. And if I went back the next week and that twig was still there, no one fished swim, obviously. If it was moved, then I knew someone had been. The little things like that, just to keep a pace on what's going on the lake. And it's like you get like you're connected to it. All the waters where you do well on, all the angles that way, they find a connection. You don't know what it's all about, but you got your finger on the pulse, and you just part of the way of the makeup of the fish are moving around, what happens in certain conditions, whatever. So this particular day, I'm outside the gate in the morning. Right now, the wind's chucking up the thin end, if you like. Got on there at 6, still dark. Stood out there and watching. The man I took as a guest, he's keen to set up. Looking out there, and you know what happens with the ducks take the bait, but you can't quite see them, but the seagulls are eating it out of the ducks' mouths, right? And I've put in, down this particular end there, I put in a couple of 100 baits, spread them all around. And they were everywhere, the ducks and the seagulls fight us. And they pack your gear up, so they're not up here. What do you mean? So look, right, we got another calf first. Meant to be no one else in the pond. Right, after the calf, we go down. It wasn't a case of quick, I need to get round there. It was a case of if it's meant to be, it'll be free when we go round. So sure enough, set up in the lawn, wind's going the other way, but I caught them down there, as a lot of anglers done in the conditions don't look right for it. It was right. So rather than in the afternoon, calling Paul saying, I might catch him today or whatever, this time, when I've cast out, I've got the donk, it's gone down. Before I put the second rod out, I picked Paul up, I picked the phone up, Paul, don't come tomorrow, fella. I said, because if I can't catch him today, I will never catch it. Trust me, I've just put the rod out and that will do it. I'll call you later, let you know how big it is. Then I cast the second rod out. About 6 o'clock in the evening, this would be what, early December? off it's toddled. Before I picked the rod up, I said to my man, this is him. Sure enough, after a big doggish fight, pinging off the bars and all them heart-stopping moments, come over the net, bang, in there, got the torch to shine it on it, bump, there it is, there's a little stump of the dorsal. There's him.
Enormous carp. That.
Incredible carp. So with that, Steve Lindsall works around at Korda now. Steve was he did the photo of Eric Cantona, you know?
Yeah,
he did
the
that
Kung Fu kick, yeah.
That was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that was Steve's
Steve's
picture
yeah.
anyway. Great friends with Steve, and he had a a colour developing darkroom in his house, and we were on films at the time. There's no digital them days. So I call up Steve to come do the pictures. Kept it in the bed. It was only going to take Steve a little while. Plus, I didn't have to tell the other, like the committee guys and the other angles on there where he'd come from. For all they know, he's around the corner. So I've jumped in the car, driven round to the other car park. I walked in because all the other angles on the lake were fishing the windward end. But I needed to get these lads so they will want to see it. Gone round. As I walked to the first guy, the phone rang. It was Paul. And as I said to this fella, he went, I said, you never guess what? I've got chopped dorsal, £50 for. At the same time, Paul knew, they knew. And I told you, don't bother coming tomorrow. That was that. With that, Steve came around, did the pictures. Well, that was it. But that took a lot out of me. So for a long time, I was fishing there, doing that, you know, keeping in the in lay-bys and whatnot. Once I've done that, that's it. I've got to draw a line under it.
Did you know when you were at your sort of most dedicated on there, were you giving them the club mix like when you weren't there? Were you giving them it every day? Like
No. I've never done that really.
No,
I think there's too many other people using too many other baits.
So this bait was equally instant as it was sort of nutritional.
They've
if you
got to
like.
be, haven't they? They've got to be instant. Otherwise, you know, if someone else is using instant bait, will always beat you to it.
And
But
these
that was
very potent sort of fishy bait.
Yeah, I was never one for making things subtle. It needs to be smooth. It's all leaking off, attraction coming off in the water there. It's all being diluted in the water as well.
And the sort of terminal gear that you were using at this stage, in fact, the stuff you caught chop dorsal on, what we're talking at that point, similar like rigs to the...
Yeah, just probably a bit tubing at the time. And you know, the battered leads that were on for those bars there. But the tale of that story was that that swim, I caught personal bests out of that 5 times over 11 years.
Well, two of them were chopped dorsal as well, weren't they?
Yeah, 5 PBs from one swim.
Yeah,
11 years apart.
amazing.
First one chopped dorsal 29.
Yeah.
Then the next day the 36. Then the 40. Then the 41. Then chopped dorsal 50. See you later. I've drawn a line under this place.
Why did you?
For now.
Why did you? Why did you get on so well with the lawn?
Not too far from the car park. No, it was just one of them that had such a big area of water to fish, because there was an out of bounds there, as you well know, to the left hand side of it. So you advance if you're looking at a clock dial, you got from 9 o'clock right round to what was next door called the 12 o'clock swim, wasn't it? Is it still called 12 o'clock?
Is it the bench further right?
That's further up. Yeah. So yeah, it just had a bigger expanse of water to fish.
Yeah.
And pretty much as far as you want to chuck it over as well. So yeah, it's just comfortable there.
Yeah. And I know you were going to tell a story about, we've got a Regan story, haven't we?
Everyone's got a Regan story, haven't they? Right, so after all that, I didn't fish Harrow for a long time. I can't remember, maybe 6 or 7, 8 years. Anyway, I thought it was maybe time to have a little look again. So if I'm going to go fishing, I get really excited about going. And when I get to the car park, I pretty well calm down. But beforehand, you know, the traffic jams give you the ump. If the lights turn red, you got the ump. So I'm in such of a rush to get round there. Turned up there like you would, but the view to the next day. So I've turned up about 6 in the evening. And seen it for a long time. God, it's just marvellous. So it's much more grown up than it was when I was down here regularly. So I go back to the van, open the van up, gear out. Oh no. In my rush, I've left the rod bag at home. But what's happened, where I've opened the front door, I put the rods against in the corner by the front door, opened it, not seen the rods there, missed them, come out, shut the door behind me, they're still there.
Oh.
Right, so I've got an hour and a half in the traffic M25 to go back and get them. By the time I got back, it was about 9:30. Right, nice weather, red hot, barge bay, nice and shallow, loads of weed around. We'll sit there and have a look. So in that hour, I sat there, it was 10:30 in the summer off. I've seen a few fish swirling about. I thought, that's good enough for me for the next morning. Anyway, I'm outside the gate just before 4. Who should turn up? Pete Regan. Hello, mate. I haven't seen you for a long time. Blah, blah. Had the little chat. Where you going? Well, it's got to be this end, hasn't it? But what's happening now is you can go into the car park and there's another gate to get into the lake. While we're unpacking the gear, we can hear these things spawning in there. There was none of that like there is these days. Shut the lake for a few days while they spawn. We're hearing these things, they're like hippos out there. Fucking hell, Pete, we're right all over them. There was 3 people there. Myself, him, and Alan Bradley, who was on Savay bailiff at the time. He got on there. So I've gone and set up where I was the evening before. There's plenty of trees and whatever around the area. You can't necessarily see what's going on to the left or right of you. Anyway, Pete's wandered around this little point. Alan Bradley's opposite. And after about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, Pete said, "Look, you're going to have to move this shit because them fish are next door to you. They're not going to come. Don't come your way. You got to be right bang on top of them." And they were spawning in there. So okay, moved up under the swim they call the trees, and Pete's on this little point. So Alan Bradley's opposite, and they were thrashing about like mad. The fish, it really was. Loads of duckweed on there as well. So I said to Pete, I shouted over on the phone wherever it was. So when they stop spawning, they're going to have it. Alan Bradley packed up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, "How you put it at the wrong time?" Sure enough, 9 o'clock, it all kicked off. And in the next 3 hours, I had 6. Pete never had a take.
Right.
Pete was coming around to the photos. And every time it ended up being 2 20s at first, 2 30s and 2 40s between 9 and midday. And every time Pete came around to do a photo, the phone rang, and it'd be one of the Essex boys on there. "You got one up?" "Yeah." "And Mark, just take the photo of 30, call you back, see you later, bye." Put it down. Half an hour goes by, he's round again to another photo, phone ring. "Mate, yeah, just take the photo of 40, call you back, bye." Then it went. This kept happening to the point where they're thinking this is wind up going on with Regan. Right for the afternoon, it was the way it was. But you just had to keep an eye on whether to get on the like the holes in the weed, if you like. When they're in front, you don't want to start casting lead too badly, do you, and can scare them off. I'm just watching the duckweed. So when they were denting the surface, it was moving over. You could see the duckweed moving one way. Quickly drop a bait on there. Because as soon as it was only like 15, 20 yards out, like half in the water around the corner of a tree, and there was awkward places, aren't they? They always get. And when they dented the surface was the other side, the hole would close over. So it was, just keep an eye on things. When it moves, if something changes every 5 minutes, just drop it out again. And I remember having a third rod set up. So when you were dealing with the fish, you just put the other one straight back out there again. And it was a mad old time. But what happened later that day is they have a committee meeting at the pub once a month. So the fella came, I never met him before, very well spoken. He said, "Good evening, Mr. Locke." I said, "Call me Martin." He said, "You've had a good day then?" I said, "Excellent, unbelievable." He said, "We've had a few complaints about the lock. Did you find any problem with the lock?" I said, "Well, I'm in here, aren't I?" He said, "And the weed situation?" I said, "Fantastic, brilliant. So nothing else you'd like me to bring up at the committee meeting that night?" I said, "There is one thing." Hey, go on. He's almost got his notepad out. I said, "Well, there's the public car park opposite." Yeah. I said, "Well, there was a couple this afternoon that got out of their car." I said, "And the pub bench opposite." I said, for want of a better expression, I said they were mating in the car on the bench. He said, "Really?" I said, "Because what happened? I'd seen them. Actually, at first I was like over the top of the newspaper. Then I was standing up. Then I had binoculars, like you would." Anyway, so I've told him all this. He said, "And your point is, Mr. Locke?" I said, "You couldn't ask if you could just cut them reeds down by about 3 foot because it's right getting in my way." So he toddled off. "Yeah, okay, Mr. Locke, enjoy your fishing. Good night." And off he went. That was it. Yeah, great day. And I hardly went back after that either.
And by that stage, was that when the fish had gone giant? Like you had fish like diamonds at like 60
Yeah, that's
pounds
it. Yeah, I
whatever.
don't ever caught diamonds. I didn't even know what he looked like. I kept saying it was certain
Or
fish.
diamonds
but I
mate,
didn't know.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the best one I had that day was like 47. But either way, it was just a ridiculous bit of fishing on there. It was great fun.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I mean,
really nice. And
at what stage did you start to look to Europe? Because obviously a lot of anglers of your experience have done similar, haven't they? They sort of, you do the UK scene and then you start to look abroad. I mean, as a business owner,
I would say, not forget the business side of it as an angler. I mean, I could have gone to K-Scene in the very first trips that went to K-Scene, when Richie, Kiefer Tooth, Max and all that went. But I was too involved in Savvy.
Mm.
Even though the Savvy angles were going down, no, I'm staying here. So I kind of missed the boat on that one. But yeah, just opportunities are coming up, and to me, it's not a fishing session. Wherever you go, it's a fishing adventure. Whether it's a short one or a long one, you don't. When you leave your house, you do not know what's going to happen, do you? No clue, and that's what's the exciting thing for me, you know. And some of the places we get to have fantastic locations. You know, you're sitting, whether it's in the middle of mountains or on a beautiful small park lake, whatever it be. Sometimes we take for granted how lucky we are to be sitting where we're at, doing what we do. So yeah, we started moving around, going abroad. Where did we go? Can't think now.
But did it take a sort of change of mindset, Martin, to think, do you know what, actually I'm going to shelve, let's say, the Hearts Club Water, and actually, what was it that inspired? Because you must have known people all across Europe by this stage, because Solo's presumably it's massive now. And
doing all the shows and whatnot, you know, great hands across Europe with each other, you know, loads of friends, whatever, over there. But where did we go for? Yeah, Harrow was virtually finished for me. It was what done me at the end. Apart from I thought caught more than enough for the effort put in. The M25 and the roadworks that are still going on now, absolute fucking nightmare. You know, you're leaving out your house at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and roads are shut, 50-mile-an-hour limits, traffic jams. It's taking you like 2 or 3 hours to get there, what should be an hour. Do you know what? I'm going to draw a line under this now and go elsewhere. I think the next sort of, I don't say a target, the next place to fish, let's say, was fishing for Benson.
Of course, yeah, because that would have been what, middle 2000s, that kind of time?
2001.
Oh, so early, right,
2002.
okay. Which at the time was the biggest common carp in the country.
I think so, yeah.
But and a busy lake.
Do you know
Bluebell.
what? I kept seeing it in the paper every few months like we did, and I thought, do you know what, I'd like to catch that. I didn't know how big the lake was. I didn't know what was in it. All I knew was that's in it, and I'd like to catch him. So I got Kev Green, time Angling Times. He told me the directions to the lake. That's all I knew. So it was 100 miles door to door, and I kept thinking when I drove up that M11, one day I want to come down the other side with that under my belt. I cut the picture out from the newspaper, put it in where your little coins are, kept looking at it like you do, so zoning on him. And when I arrived there, Tony Lee are absolutely fantastic. For a day ticket complex, that takes some beating.
Still the same. I've been there in the last year. Very, very well run, very
Brilliant.
Immaculate, isn't it?
Well, first thing she gave me was, I thought it was going to be a list of rules. And it was the colour menu from the takeaway. If you want anything to eat, just call these, I'll bring it to the gate. Lovely. So which lake does Benson live in then? I'm up there, Kingfisher, and go where you like.
Yeah.
So that was the start of it. And I thought, I'm going to go there when, at the worst case scenario, which was August bank holiday, it was absolutely mobbed out. And I went on there and I immediately felt at home. I really liked it. I met Brody up there, who's become a really close friend. Been on loads of adventures together. Some of the other lads. A lot of time you got there where it wasn't like, there was no clickiness about it, because people, just being central in the country at Peterborough, people come from all over. So no one really knows each other, if you like. There was only 3 or 4 of us that were pretty regular. And yeah, I had a great time on there for about a year.
And you just, you know, looking in from the outside, Martin, this is a day ticket lake. This is not where I'd expect your natural habitat to be, but you've had to muck in.
I don't mind.
No.
If you want to, for anyone,
Yeah.
if you see something you want to catch, you've got to go in and take your coat off and have a go.
What did you decide on in terms of tactics for there? That would be the thing to trip Benton up.
But at first, you're getting finding your feet on the lake, aren't you? You're doing the standard things. Boilies out there, a few spoms out there, spods as it was at the time. And I'd caught a few. I hadn't seen Benson on the bank. Been between me being there for just a couple of days a week. He'd been out a couple of times. And it was always the people where you got there's a weird bit of reverse psychology has to go on, right? And it's very difficult to put why and how you're going to do it. Because where you see the bulk of the fish, the good angling tells you there's to locate the fish. But experience tells you a lot of time the big fish are loners, aren't they? And that, even though it's only a small lake, it's no exception. Because the people that have caught it, but the ones that just, I'm just sitting here having a nice time, you can pretty well park outside your swims there, can't you? And they're there for a nice holiday. But the lads that were chasing them around, that are moving around, doing their thing like, as it would have been from a textbook, loads of fish jump in this corner, I'll move down there. That made life easier a little bit, because you wasn't then stressing to get on the fish. you were kind of not having to worry about getting on the fish because chances are that big and he's not going to be with them anyway. Which holds true on a lot of the waters, doesn't it? So the turning point came when it was the worst weekend of the year. It's the weekend after they put the clocks back. Driving up there for the weekend, it's dark, wet, horrible. The traffic's a nightmare. And I tell you, it was one of them weekends where the fog didn't lift. It was just dank. Inside your bivvy's dripping wet all the time. What am I doing here? Sunday morning, I've looked out, and it's sort of like where everyone put 20 or 30 baits around each rod. Load of people on there. Looking out, I'm seeing the same as I saw on Harrow. The ducks were diving, coming up, and the seagulls, through the mist, you could tell the noise they were making, and they were taking all the baits out, loads of them. At that moment, it's important to learn something if you can, every session, isn't it? Right. They're not eating the baits now. That's it. Got to come something different. I thought, I wonder about maggots. Because maggots weren't, prior to that, they weren't popular for carp fishing. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure people did use them.
I think certainly by
but they didn't use them.
By the mid to late 2000s, it was used a bit more, but not early 2000s rare, wasn't it? Rare.
That's right. So anyway, I started thinking about this during the week, and that's what going to be the one. It's going to have to be right to get that out there. I'm not playing about with anything other than I've got to get a bait boat because you have to use a lot. This is the plan anyway. I've worked out the rig. I've got a 2.0 Aberdeen sea hook bent right round. I've got a golf ball size ball of maggots that I play indoors and playing around with this. I've threaded 20 or 30 on, put a cork ball on, put another 20 or 30 on, tightened it up. It was the size of a golf ball. Hooks underneath, hanging under. Right now, I thought if this works, I will catch him. But also, I can't let it get out. So the idea being, you can tell people the truth, but you don't tell them the whole truth. So if anyone asks me, I'm using pop up because it was popped up in all events. Yeah. I'm going to tell you what. So it is. Anyway, I phoned Phil at Angling Techniques up. Mate, any chance one of your boats? Yeah, he said, what are you after? I don't know, it's micro cat, is it? He said, with all the toys on it, the echo sounder and all the rest. Okay, so we've got a 6-week lead time at the moment. He said, when do you want it? I said, Wednesday. I said, look, you must have, now once you've got the plan in your head, I've got to get up there and execute it right now. You must have something over there that's just like a second-hand one, an ex-demo one, anything. Phil, I've got to have it. Okay, so sure enough, drove to Swindon, got that off him. Now, to keep it even more QT, I've had to go and get the maggots. I can't just go to the tackle box, my local shop, and say, get me 10 gallon. So I've had to go to all the little shops around with 2 gallon each. Right, up we go. So I've got all the pets, as I called them, in the van. I had to do a slideshow up at Stoke on the flipping Wednesday evening. So I've gone from Swindon, or where I am at Dartford, to Swindon to Stoke, with the idea of doing 4 days fishing on there. And bless him, Martin Clark, he saw it was in the back of that van. I said, just do me a favour, don't say a word to anyone. Fair enough, he didn't. So we went down there, and the first night, the first take I had, a bream. Do me a favour, like that's it. Back to square one. That was the only bream I caught. In that 4 nights, I had 4 fish. So trying to throw the old boys off the scent, 1 or 2 of the regular lads, I didn't know well enough to be able to share what I was doing. But I knew them well enough to chat to them. So I've got the old Albert trick now. I've put a marker float against a tree, and on the marker, so I knew the angle they came at, they would see the marker float. And on that, I marked with a black pen inches. So over they come, and mate, right, you've had some then? I said, yeah, been excellent. So you found a little spy out there then somewhere? I said, anywhere you like. As long as it's 10'7". And looked at me, just walked away. Good luck, see you next week. And other little things where I'd tie the pop-up up. The old days of the hard pop-ups, you had to just lasso it, didn't you, with the dental floss. So did all that, cut the ends off, put it in my cup overnight. In the morning, lay it next to your cooker. They come around for a cup of tea. And good last night. The good thing was, every take I had was at night. Yeah. All through the winter. I did 17 nights, and I had 17 takes in 14 nights. Every one was at, because obviously I'll be banged to rights in the daytime. There's a great big ball coming out of them. Anyway, see the pop-up down there. So you down next week, are you? Yeah, probably, if I can. All right, you couldn't fish a pot of them pop-ups up, could you? The old orange. Jack goes, yeah. Following week, you turn up. Here you go, mate, your pop-ups here. How much are you? Keep them.
Yeah.
All that it was. So, and then I've got, I borrowed a set of the proper military night sights off Rob Hughes. So it's a gadget, and it's another toy. So I've left you hear of 2 or 3 fish crash out in the night, and you're looking over it. So one, these are good. They're not going to do me any good. No, they don't want to catch me anything. But no one else had them. So when they come around for the little chat and the cup of tea, it was them fish jumping out there last night. Any idea where they were? Well, they just sound like they was out in front. They was over that tree over the end there, and leave the night sights out so you can see them. By then they're worrying about what you're up to, not what they're up to. But it was just, it's not nasty. It's just fun and games along the way. And what happened then? Yeah, the maggots, right? So they're really working. I lost the fish. One night I hadn't had a take in it for the 2 nights, but the next on the Sunday I thought I'd have to stay. Weather was coming in, and Tone locks the door on there at say 7 o'clock in the evening. Says, "Come 8 o'clock, you're locked in till Monday. That's your lot." Got the take. It's come around in front of me. I remember see it broadside in front of me. That's it. It's like half the size of a van, and it pulled out. I called John Hannett.
Yeah.
To say, look, I don't know I was locked in here. I was just looking up at the sky thinking, really, is that what's come to? Can't even get home, man down. And he sent me a number over afterwards, maybe this will help. It turned out to be Samaritans.
Classic John.
I've got this. Yeah. I've twigged it straight. Well, you're right, love. So I really played it out for about half an hour on the phone, because I'm not allowed to put the phone down. They might, for all they know, you're going to top yourself.
Yeah.
And it came down to a lot of, I changed. I was on a size 2.0 Aberdeen, really. Yeah. I changed to a 1.0. Right. Is there anything I can do to help, with that? Well, not really. It's just something I've got to live with. I've lost it. She said, well, tell me a bit more. So, well, I've been here since, started in August bank holiday. This is getting on, January now. I said, I've been home in between times, kept it rolling, because they've got to listen to you, haven't they? And she said, well, is there any advice I could give you for future to help you get over it? I said, do you think I should have stuck to the size 2.0? The 1.0 was a bit too small. So, okay, thanks very much, love. So, got people far more in need of your advice than me. Thanks a lot for listening. Down. So that's what took the stress of the loss away. And then in April, banged it out, and that was that. But great fishery, great place, lovely people.
And at the time, what, £56?
54 something, 54. I think. Yeah.
I reckon you could find that, Tobes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I reckon you could find Lockie's capture of Benson. There's one for you. Now, the Three Lions thing, really, really collectible solar stuff, like to this day. I've got some at home, actually, a couple of those.
Right.
What is this? You're a massive football England fan, aren't you?
So I'm West Ham through and through.
Yeah.
I used to go there when I was a lad.
Having a good season,
before fishing, really.
Oh, no,
don't mention
go
it
there.
right now, eh? But no, I went there home and away, cup finals, 75, 80, and all the big games. And then the first game for England I went to was when Beckham kicked up Simeone in France 98. I thought, yeah, I like a bit of this. So we joined the England fans club and whatnot. So it comes to the next World Cup, 2001. This is obviously you've got to qualify first. Went over to the game, we beat Germany 5-1, which was absolutely unbelievable. Imagine, can't you? Right, so the next game, we've got Greece, a formality. We've just beat Germany 5-1 away, Greece are nothing. And we've only got a draw. So I twigged what goes on. People, if they like football or not, the whole country gets behind it. Plus, when they beat the Germans, everyone was behind them, They didn't really reckon football. Now all of a sudden they're interested. I wonder. And I've spoken to the guys that do our fluoro heads. Can you do the 3 lines with George Cross? Yeah, okay. Right. So it was organised perfectly just for once. John's done the advert. Between us come up with it. Open up Carp Talk. They think it's all over. Turn the page. It is now. Picture of the indicator, full size on the page. That's that. All we've got to do is get a point. So myself and John, a couple of other lads, we're at Old Trafford for that game. So what happens? Carp Talk prints on Sunday. It's out on Wednesday. This is Saturday afternoon. I can't stop it being printed because no problem, is it? I've got 20,000 indicators I've got sitting there, the factory. Last kick of the game, we're 2-1 down. And I'm half feeling bad or not because I can't stop what's going to happen. So when Beckham, I was stood behind that goal, when Beckham smashed that ball in the 3rd minute of injury time, we drew 2-2 and we're going to Japan. I jumped twice as high as anyone else in that Stadium. It was unbelievable.
I do remember
Iconic,
that. I do remember that, but that was
That was a moment.
what that must have been like in the ground, mate.
It was incredible. But I'm thinking, I had double sword on it all.
Yeah.
If he don't score, this is
you're rubbing it in, aren't you? You're
20,000 indicators got sitting there. The perfect plan. It's going wonky. Anyway, we did. So that moment, I said, right, that's it. We're going to Japan, and that's what happened. But it did work because in the between that game and the World Cup, we did 60,000 those indicators.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a really nice thing to do.
Still sought after today as well.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Just for reference, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there he is.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, I mean, a beautiful car, like buttery yellow flank. It's just so deep.
It's an awesome carp.
Yeah.
Living there, and anyone just go down there and pay their money. There's no roping off swims. There's no special treatment or anything. You just turn up there. You probably still get a menu and just go and have a fish.
Yeah.
But yeah, great place. Really good.
Giant carp. I mean, presumably that's still your UK PB by some.
No, not now.
Is it not?
No. This year I just
Even bigger one.
Yeah. But at the time,
Yeah.
for many years.
One thing I did want to move. It's not on our. It wasn't on our little agenda, but it kind of reminded me of it as you were talking about Broady.
Yeah.
And that's the Redmire DVD. That was not something that had been. I mean, filming at Redmire is not really a thing, is it? But you guys somehow got permission to do it. And,
Yeah.
And was it you that caught the big one, like the big gassy fish?
Broady had it.
Broady that had the biggest fish to come out of Redmire for many years.
I think it was actually like the second or third biggest common ever to live in there.
Right, yeah. How did that come about? And like, did presumably bankrolled
Cast out
it,
and had a take, and next thing you know, he's got it. That's enough.
Even that wasn't a sympathy. So the filming, like, where did the idea come from? How did it sort of?
I don't know. It's not on the agenda. I didn't have it in my mind. Honestly, no idea. Just thought.
Did you enjoy it?
I went to Redmire a number of times. In fact, when I had that chopped dorsal, I made mine up to the Carp Society, do it as for charity. They auction it for the week. That's it. Whatever it's costing, we're going there. And funny enough, the fish after chopped dorsal I caught on the first day of the season was raspberry.
What? I didn't know you'd caught raspberry. Yeah. So at the time, I don't believe that.
Don't tell anyone.
At the time, Britain's oldest living carp.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like picking up, thinking, you could tell some stories. On the other side of the coin is you must be fucking sick of swimming up and down this puddle for all those years. They were like 60 odd years old, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite a moment for that one.
I can imagine. Do you enjoyed it? You fishing on there?
Oh, it was excellent. Yeah, it's all very close quarters. You can see what's going on there. You can see how tricky they can be. Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah, fantastic.
Soft rods and all that. Did you go down the hole?
I've still got them indoors. Hardy Richard Walker's 10-foot glass, big cork handles on them, £2 Tesco, whatever. Yeah, and, really good on that.
The filming trip must have been memorable to share it with lads that you got on with.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, the most memorable trip there was the first one. I'd come off Harrow to go on there, and all I had was big baits for me because again, you imagine small lake, small baits. And I had some baits left over, and again, I took the powder with me to make some more next day. The first night I had 2 on these 2022 millers, and we'll stick to that all week, and ended up having a really good week. And it was, every time I went there, it was just like it was no easier than the last time, if you know what I mean.
And this was when Les was Les there at that point?
Oh no, before that.
Because obviously you'd known Les from back in the day.
Sorry, Les was running it,
yes,
but he didn't live on site like he does now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think I ended up going to Redmire 9 or 10 times.
Did you? Yeah.
I mean, great bit of history.
Seems like a thing with you. Once you get something in your head, like it's like your rainbow fishing, which we will talk about. Yeah, you want to repeat and repeat.
Well, it's hard to work out what's going on the water with 1 or 2 trips in it. The more you go, the more you learn about it, and then you just get in tune with it. So you just find a connection. If you're lucky.
Yeah, and the early European fishing that we didn't quite get round to talking about.
Yeah.
Sauce with Alan Taylor, that's one that you've highlighted for us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did many trips here and there, but I went to Quay quite a lot. I had great times there.
Yeah.
But the story with the Sauce Common, the carp's £100. It hadn't been heard of. In Hungary or ever it has been now, I know, but I'd been there before. It's 7 acres, triangle, 7 foot deep on average, no snags, no out of bounds. The thing gets caught once a year. That's that big. Anyway, I sorted out a trip. Alan, Pete, Ollie, and Pete, Isotope Pete, I call him. Anyway, we've ended up having a draw. I come out fourth. No, we're not going anywhere, so it's your trip. You go where you want. I knew where I needed to be. Around this far bank. So 3 of them on one side, me on the other. In, I think it was June, July. It wasn't ideal conditions, but either way. Anyway, I've caught a couple through the week. Al's caught a couple. And they're so lightly hooked, it's unbelievable. Like I had one, first and only one I've ever caught in the barbel. Believe me, you can never stretch. You could like in the foreskin, like it'd be 3 foot long before it stretches off. It's so rubbery, it was ridiculous. How's this then? Anyway, weather was coming in. I knew I'd have a chance. And you know what it's like when you get that feeling. It's not going to be down there. I don't know what's never been caught down this margin on the side here. It's not going to be there. If I get a take off that fish, it'll be in the middle. 60, 70 yard out. Nothing spectacular going on. And sure enough, no, I'll go back on it, right? Through the week. This is what happened before that. I've had a couple of bleeps in the night, go out like you do go in the bushes for a quick slash. As I'm out there, I've looked, got my head torch on, I can hear the snaffle and the snarling going on. 2 big golden eyes coming towards me. What the fuck? And that was that. And being 9/10 asleep, I was absolutely convinced it was a panther or a leopard's escaped from wherever. It's all enclosed there. You know, it's like normally you get something like a fox or whatever, you shine the torch and it runs away. This thing didn't. It kept coming, but through the dead leaves, it was crunch, it was snarling. Fuck, I've had it. So all I can do is dive into my sleeping bag. I've got a frying pan. It's the lightest weight frying pan you've ever seen. It's like nothing, it's cheap, £2. I pulled the sleeping bag over myself. I've got the frying pan there ready to eat it with, and I put my arm off it. I'm left-handed, so if it chews my right arm off, I can still write.
Yeah.
If it lets go, I'll let it have it so badly with the frying pan, it ain't true. So I'm underneath it, and all I can hear is this thing snarl getting closer and closer. Now it's here. I was absolutely petrified. Go on, you try it one time. You touch that arm, and I'm going to fucking batter the light with this. It went on for what seemed like ages. Eventually, it's walked behind the bivvy. Then it's come round again. Just go away, please. Then eventually, it's trotted off. I woke up in the morning. I'm still alive. Fuck for that.
How did you get to sleep? Never mind, wake up.
Well, there you go. I can't remember if I did. Anyway, wound in, gone round to see the boys next morning. Down the way, there's a van turned up. There's only 4 of us on here. Turns out to be it's Phil Gregory, the owner. So when I walked around there, I said, never guess what happened last night, boys. Told them the story. That's Pete's dog. He's got a red setter. The fucking red setter it was. I thought it was a panther. It's fucking massive. He always has to stroll around the lake when we arrive. Must be you always turn up this time of night, do you? Yeah, I'll come on the cheap ferry, get here about 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, flipping now, you don't understand that much. I said, I'm lucky to be alive. I was convinced it was something.
And he was lucky he
me.
didn't get a pan round his head.
Yeah.
The owner's dog. Yeah, that wouldn't have gone down well, would it? No.
So that was that. Anyway, it comes to that. On the last morning, we got to pack up at a wind in at 8 o'clock. Up our 7. Up it goes. Right, this is him then. And I'm known talking to the boys there that run it. Joe, the bailiff and that. If you're a kid, he said, you'll know. There was nothing anywhere near that size in there. It would be like hooking a car doing 10 miles an hour. Sure enough. I remember picking the rod up, winding down there, and every time I got the rod round, you couldn't take a turn of line. It kept, you know, the big ones like they pull the rod straight, don't they? Fucking hell, right, this is the story. I've had the little picture from a van that's in the like I did with Benson, that's sitting on the bivvy table. Round we go. There'll be some coming out of it. Right, we'll get a bit of line off now. No, fucking way. For 5 minutes, it took line off me. And then I hadn't pulled out of a fish for 2 or 3 years. It went, no way. Round in, fuck this. Got the picture on the fucking table, jumped up and down on it. I think that's it then, isn't it? The world's finished. I swear, if I'd had the Death March on a CD, I'd have played it all the way home. I got to the passport control. Fellow said, where you been? I said, fishing over at wherever the nearest town is. He said, did you catch anything? I said, don't you fucking start. Just lost that. Well, anyway, Anyway, that was that. So yeah, it was really bad news. Then I've got to the point of that I still think now, I don't get stressed when I'm playing or anything. I just think if your name's on them, nothing's going to go wrong. So therefore it ain't worth worrying. And if it does pull out, fall off for whatever reason, it was meant to be. But yeah, so when you lose what was £100 common, it ain't the best thing that can happen on a Saturday morning. And unfortunately, it died about a month, 6 weeks after that. But what a carp that was.
Yes.
Damo had it, didn't he?
Yeah, we talked about it with Clive Gibbons recently as well.
Clive had it.
Yeah, twice. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Incredible animal. So we had a go.
Yeah, and your European adventures have taken you all over, haven't they? I mean, there's a Tenerife story, I think, and let's do Tenerife,
right?
And then we're going to talk Rainbow,
okay?
And we're going to be on the home straight then, Martin.
Radio.
So what's the? I mean,
this is
not many been to Tenerife.
Very strange one, right? For 6-7 years, we used to go there Christmas, New Year, just for partying. So we hadn't been there for a few years. Myself and little Dan are chatting away. Colin Martin's one of our old friends. He had a view to move out there, going to buy a place. But this week he's going there to have a recce, look round him and his wife, Chris. So me and little Dan decided if we go over there, I know it was going to be on so on the beach here, we're going to tap him on the shoulder. He'd be well shocked. Yeah, all right, okay, we'll go. So sure enough, cut the day after Christmas, get down there. Donk, donk, donk. So much for looking around trying to recce to get somewhere to live. Colin's just spaced out on the beach like we'll be with Christine. Anyway, we did the usual partying thing. We're walking along the prom one night and we see a picture, fella's got a decent sized fish, 50, 55 pound.
Big, yeah.
Yeah, carp fish in Tenerife. Oh, that's it then, isn't it? We're having that. You know, it's another country. Albeit Spain, it's not. Right. So we wander into see the little tour excursion bird behind the counter. It should. When do you want to go? Morning or afternoon? What? It's not even a day. No, do a morning trip and an afternoon trip. Well, it's got to be mornings, hasn't it? Rightio. When do you want to go? Tomorrow, New Year's Day. So that's it. We booked us up. I think it cost us €50 each for the morning. Yeah, you meet the fellas pick you up outside the so-and-so big hotel and off you go from there. Right, that's it. We're down the road, we're straight in the supermarket. Bait and tackle supply, that ain't good enough for us. We wanted to sort our own thing out. So pick up a load of bits and pieces. See Colin in the evening, never guess what we've done. Tomorrow, Colin, we've got fishing, carp fishing, Tenerife. We're on our way. All right, excellent. So as you can imagine, we are buzzing. New Year's Eve, forget getting drunk and that, we want to be at it. So we're out there in the morning, and early in the morning, when you're partying, it doesn't happen. Like 7 o'clock, you're either not home yet or you're asleep, one of the two. All the trips to Mount Tady and all the other excursions, the Parrot Place and all the whatever it is, they're all out there that time of day. There was coaches everywhere, people everywhere. Couldn't believe it. So we stood there waiting for the fishing bloke. No sign. The coaches got less and less and less and less until there was none. There was one fella on the other side in the most beaten up, poxiest little van you've ever seen in your life. He went, "You boys for the fishing?" Yeah, we looked at each other. Yeah, sure we are. Right, there's one bloke in the front there. He's already picked him up. He's got all the gear with him. Match angler, northern fella. So he's keeping him busy. And I'm trying to ask questions like you would do about what we got to do. He said, "Well, I ain't going to say you're going to catch big ones," he said, "but I'll guarantee you'll catch something." Right, that's all we want. Ain't worried about how big it is. So we winded up the mountains. All of a sudden, it comes to a halt. Pulls the handbrake on, turns us right, we're here. What, on a 45-degree slope? Whatever, boys. Yep, come on in, grab the tackle out the back. Pulled that out. They're like 6-foot rods. About 10 yards of line on each reel. Oh. He's picked a bag up yesterday's bait, about 10 grains of sweet corn, a couple of bits of luncheon meat in there. Little Dan's rod's got the tip snapped off. He's like, "Don't worry about that, that'll be all right." You sort of see the things with tourists, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, where's the fucking lake then? So we can take life at our own hands, getting across the busy road. He opens the gate and it's like someone's decided to make a hotel, put the bottom floor in and the footings, and then gone, leave it. He opened it up. Half of it was rocks and concrete. The other half was dirty green, stagnant. Oh, it was only like 30 or 40 yards square, and half of it was rocks. It was just dumped like it was council rubbish tip. Looked like it was shit everywhere. I think we've been had over, boys. Anyway, the kid that's driving, he said, "Right, just watch this," and he gave me the wink. Go on then. He's thrown these pellets in, 4mm pellets floating. all of a sudden up they come. These fish were nosing the pellets about. They couldn't eat them, they're too big. Carp of that size. No
What,
joke.
3 inches long, sort of
No,
thing?
2 inches long. Right? They couldn't eat a form of, no way.
Yeah.
And nosing about, fuck me boys, we have been had over. But the fellow in the front, the match gear, he's got the size 26 hooks and the rest of it, and he's give it there, hey, looking forward to this lad. Fucking hell. He's gone down, he's got them anyway. The fellow said, right, I'm off down to get something to eat if you want it. He said, I'll leave these keep nets here. If you get anything decent, put them in the keep net. The keep net was much bigger than the size of that cup. It was like that and that deep. Decent ones, put them in there. Or whatever. At that moment, boom, a big one compared with that jumped. Right, that's what I'm up for. You forget this lot. It's in the bottom of the tackle supplied was one of them cantilever boxes.
Yeah.
Couple of old rusty old hooks, broken disgorger. There was no scissors, no nothing. So we're rubbing them on a rock to get you the things, the line sorted out. The leads, there was none of that either. So what I've done is I've got a pepperami. I found a Coke can, you know, the ring pull.
Yeah.
I've pushed the pepperami down, cut a slot down the middle of it, wrapped it all around. There was 2 old split shot in there. I pushed the split shot so tight it couldn't come off. Lassoed a bit of pepperami on the hook. Pulled a load of line off because it wasn't going to cast anywhere. Went like that with it. It's landed 15, 20 foot out. It's going down forever. It's about 30 foot deep.
No.
Found a bit of old Kit Kat wrapper, silver paper, rod sticking up over the thing. Down, down, up and down. There's some little fellas trying to nibble away at that. No chance. All of a sudden, it's gone wallop straight round. Played this thing, and I I was convinced was the biggest one. The one I'd seen jump, and it was about that size. And let me tell you, I was as chuffed catching that as I was catching Benson. It was absolutely a moment. So we'd gone back down in the evening. That was our morning sessions over and done. Went back down and saw the girl behind the counter there. Actually, did you have a nice day? I said, mate, we've had an absolutely brilliant day, but we really had to make the best of what was it. Because if someone's come back to you and said that was like you've charged €50 for that, if all joking aside, €5 was the most that they could possibly have been looking up for. But we pulled out the bag. So it was really memorable, that one. It was a weird one, but it was just different, you know. How many times are you going to pull up on the steepest hill you've ever been on and first just get out the lakes here?
Like you say, mate, an adventure every time.
Yeah. I made the best of a very bad job.
And when you sort of went on the what was to become like the biggest recurring adventure, which is the whole rainbow thing, Martin, what do you know about the lake? Where were we in its evolution? Had it done world record fish at this point when you
Now what happened, a good friend of mine I met through Brett White with Marco Tetero in Holland there. He said, oh mate, you're gonna have to come down here, you'll really love it. I'd never heard of it. But when it's getting close to the time of going, I'm seeing Paul Hunt was doing the trips down there. I think he had one that was just shy of 80 or just shy of 71 or so. I thought, I've never fished a lake with an 80 pounder in it before. And it became a bit real. Anyway, we went down there the first week of December. And at the time, there was only, for that week, 5 of us on the lake. Me, Broady, mate Andy Wigg, Marco and his mate. That was it. So we turned up after dark. Very understated clubhouse. Pascal, very nice man. A few pictures about. Nothing, you know, it's not the great wall-to-wall pictures of fish or anything like that. Couldn't be more hospitable. I saw a picture on there, just a small one. I looked at it in amazement. I said, what's that? Is that this lake? He said, it's swim 19. That's where Marco had put us down for. Fucking hell, liar. Next morning we drive around there, and as I turned that corner and looked out, it's like, wow, this is incredible. This lake is absolutely off the scale. And normally you expect when you're catching big fish, there's not many of them, is there? This lake had a shed load of them. First week of December, we'd be lucky to catch anything, really. I remember waking up after the first night. You're really tired after you've driven down there. You know what the day of the week is. I woke up with the rod in my hand, knowing that where I put the rods is like 230 yards out, 180 yards, whatever, a long way. I've got to come through a narrow gap, snags either side of it. I don't know what's going on there, really. The next thing I know, it's down in front of me. And it's what turned out to be a 41. Anyway, the rest of the week we had several fish up to 50 odd between us. So it was absolutely mind-blowing. couldn't wait to come back. So consequently, he walked in there. There's the book on the table. For like the third week of January, about 15 of us went down there because no one there. And one thing led to another. But the times I've had down there are absolutely off the scale.
Because must have fished it as much as any Englishman has now.
Paul fished it more than me, I would think, so he was doing the trips down with them. But I know I've done probably 150 weeks down there. There was one time when I got going, I was doing 10, 11, maybe even 12 weeks a year there.
I daren't ask how much that must cost, because that is some investment, mine.
But you just bought it. I'm not going to say the pinnacle, because everywhere you go is, Savvy was that, fishing at Dartford, at Brooklands was that. But at the time, it was like I want to be here as much as possible, because this is so exciting. It's the only lake I've ever fished where half the tackle you go and get from B&Q, not from a tackle box.
Did it inform your product development stuff at the time?
Yeah, for sure. It set your mind thinking. You're in such a good mood there. That it was like a minefield. It was just inspiring. The line bite is just a small item that came out from there. That was really just to guide you in your boats. The worst thing that can happen is, as you go in a boat, is you catch your line in the motor.
Line,
It's the worst, mate. Anyway, so that started off as that, but I started off with using ping pong balls. Just slid them down, put a back lead clip on it, slid them down the line. So they're like huge, great swing tips, really. But that wasn't the reason for doing it at first. It was a case of at least I can see them from a distance, swerve it with the boat. All of a sudden, I jumped up 6-8 inches. And then they're all doing it. And that way, you know that you were getting line bites.
Not a bleep, though.
No bleeps.
Yeah.
And sometimes this would happen 12 or 15 times over an hour or two. And then all of a sudden, that bangs up in the air, the rod bangs over, and it's game on. And anyone that saw them, you're going to have to get some of these. So, but is that they became what was ping pong balls ended up being the line biters. And most, you look down there's one bank there where you got like 3 or 4 swims you can see all the way through, and that's over like 600-700 yards. And all you'd see is a row like Christmas tree decorations hanging out on everyone's rods. But yeah, great. It's a second indication, but a lot of the time it catches you an extra fish or two, because where you think, well, there's nothing happening, I'll rebait that rod. When that happens, you get the up and down, and 9 times out of 10, in theory, it could be anywhere from where the line enters the water to where the bait is, because of the lead sitting. But the 9 times out of 10, that rod that had the line bites was the one that went.
What do you say to people who have criticised the methods that are essential at Rainbow?
I'd say generally a lot of them haven't been there. But in my personal experience, there's very little. I fished it 99% straight pull. Nothing. It's just like you would normally, lead to hook link, straight down. That's it. They're going around corners and things and over branches. To me, I'd rather not get the take than lose a fish.
Yeah.
In the little channels where I think it might be happening, it looked like there's going to be a 20-pound common down there, and invariably there is, and they're going to give you the most trouble, so I don't put them in there.
Right.
The best one really was when, let's say you want to go past and around the corner of an island. What's wrong with having a bank stick in that corner so that the line doesn't chafe? If the rules allow it, which they do, drop it around that corner, because when you hook the fish, you're not going to run up the island. He's just going to come round, your line's perfectly straight, and what's the problem? No, so personally, I never really encountered. I think when it's like when people haven't been there, that it sounds a lot more. I wouldn't say not aggressive, but it sounds more complicated
and dicey than it actually is.
Exactly. Yeah. I say 99% of my fishing was pretty well straight pull.
Because and Rainbow developed to the point, partly because I guess guys like you were going out and catching enormous carp, that you couldn't get a week there because the whole of Europe wanted to be there, but you maintained that relationship presumably to keep going. Yeah,
I was fierce for it all the time. When I'd Charlotte was my eldest daughter there, and the boys would say, well, now you've got a little one on the way, you won't be going fishing so much. If I can see about that. So the first time she was 6-7 months old, I hired a motorhome. Thought rather than wake up early in the morning, it's a long way down there, and in a motorhome limited to 50-60 mile an hour, it's going to be even longer. So I'll go on a Thursday night, find somewhere to sleep in a services, next morning poodle down whenever you like. So I did just that, and when I got up after a few hours of sleeping above the driver's hut, come down the stairs, and my trousers were gone. I looked out the front on the floor, there's my clothes bag, so we've been turned over. There's obviously people trying to get from France to England, several of them. And I ended up going into the services with nothing. They left me one pair of shorts. That was it. Put the shorts on, found a bit of string from a tackle bag, tied the string up round as a belt, walked in there like, huh? What's this fella doing here? So excuse me, call the gendarmerie, police, whoever. And ended up having to go to, the thing was it was like a bus, this job, it was really big, 6-berth motorhome. It was like driving a coach. I've ended up having to go to a shopping centre to get some clothes. A phone was stolen.
No.
Yeah, they had my passport, I didn't have the phones. So I didn't have the passport, I'd put them away already.
Yeah.
Phones, sunglasses, and that were gone. So didn't have anyone's number to call them. The only number I knew was a work number. So I've got them. I knew Stevie Briggs was on the lake at the time, so I've asked him to make sure, can you ask Pascal to leave the gate open? Because when we arrive, it'll be in the middle of the night. So what normally takes, like, I don't know, 12 hours to get there. I ended up leaving at 9 o'clock on Thursday evening. I got to the lake 4 o'clock Saturday morning. And Pascal said, look, if you want to get a caravan, Paul Hunter by the time, he said, you can get it and leave it here. And from then on in, that's what I did. It was the best thing I ever bought. So my children grew up there. You know?
Yeah, I was going to say, they must have been almost like family friends that got Pascal and his family.
His lads were very young as well.
Yeah.
But, you couldn't find a nicer family. But absolutely do anything for you. When little Ruby came along 3 years later, I took her down there when she was 14, not this Thursday. So it'd be an August trip. So what's that, 4 or 5 months? Right, going down there for a fortnight. And they needed milk. You couldn't really buy that milk at the supermarket unless you really urged to get it. It was a 15, 20-minute drive. Pascal's wife would go to the supermarket that night before when she knew it was arriving to get you a couple of bottles of milk, bring them round to you that night. You would see little one's got food. Pascal, anything you want at the supermarket, anything at all. They could not do enough for you. You still can't, So,
and you still go.
Yeah.
And what do you find most addictive about that fishing? Then is it the adrenaline? I imagine, having never been, that the adrenaline must be off the scale.
Every time you go fishing, say it's an adventure, exciting. Every time you go, but it's not going to wear off. It's one of them where, say, it's a long way down, and the first couple of days you're really tired, but come Tuesday or Wednesday, most time I'm there, I find myself standing out in that complete silence. So there is nowhere in this world I'd rather be than here. And even the point where I haven't been since they had really bad fires last year, what with the COVID and all the rest of it. So it'll be about 18, 20 months since I've last been. I'm due to go there at the end of April. So the longer you go somewhere, you think, I've had the best of that. Not going to miss it. But I know when I get back there, it'll be, I know exactly why I come here. It's just the whole way of fishing. And
so it's not as simple as these were for a while the biggest carp in the world until obviously Eastern Europe sort of Euraqua and the like rose. It wasn't as simple as that.
No, it's the atmosphere of the whole place that only people that have been there will tell you what it's like. It's electric, absolutely electric. The lads there there's some really good lads from across Europe as well as the English boys. No one's in your swim all the time, but everyone knows what's going on. And when you're sitting there and they're absolutely crashing out around you, it's like someone chucking paving slabs flat on the lake. I think the last time I was down, a little story with that, there's mostly a double swims there, but 17 and 18 are 100 yards apart and you're on your own. So you've got to call the lads up from next door, swim, do your photos and whatever, or wind in, which isn't in the equation. So I was down, it was a fortnight trip, and for some reason, the fish were out there. Most of us in October, you really think you're going to get on for a hit of fish. Didn't happen. I've had one on the Monday, nothing else. I'm thinking, for the first time ever, there's something wrong with that bait. There must be. So I've called the French lad up who knows quite a lot about it. I know what he's going to do is be half sensible. I arranged to meet him on the Sunday at the supermarket. And it's virtually like club mix what he's got there. So as soon as I've got his car, I knew it. As soon as he opened his van, I knew it. Right, paid him for that. Down we go. Plan B starts tonight. So put the rods out. Bear in mind, I've had one on Monday. This is now Sunday. I've had nothing since. Within 2 or 3 hours, over it's gone. Excellent. Got one. 35. So rather than move the boat, on that swim 18, the boat lives over there, because near enough, invariably, every fish kites right. So the boat's that's where it is. So I've had this fish, it's in the thick fog. Shall I put it out again? yeah, I am going to put it out again. So you ain't going to catch them with them hanging in the butt ring. So through I've gone, came back, put the rod on the rest, and because I was at middle of the night now, you're knackered. I can't be bothered to move the boat over there. I'll leave it in the middle here. Half an hour later, I mean, they've always used cable ties over the backrest, stops them pulling forward and whatnot. Forget it. Within like the sound of a bullet from a gun, and half an hour putting the rod out, I've heard 2 bleeps and the rod's launched itself. It's clattered against the snag ears that bent. It's then come jammed in the boat between the motor and the echo sounder. It happened quicker than a bullet from a gun. I was like Bambi. I come out there in 2 or 3 steps, grab the rod, pull back. That's it. You're coming out of there. That's you. It's not for the faint-hearted.
No.
You know? I think you're 15 foot now from where you were to where you are now. And I only dropped the rod 3 foot from the snags. Out you come. Right. It's in the deep water now. It's 30 foot across the middle. Didn't have to get in the boat like you normally do. So if I had bottom line is, if I hadn't put the boat there, this fish I'd have lost the rod.
The rod had gone, yeah.
But the boat was only there because I caught the one earlier. Went to net it and I couldn't net it. The fish was beached itself and I couldn't get the net underneath it. So I managed to push it out a little bit, got it in there. Oh, man, adrenaline's going like, I was jumping out your chest. Fucking hell, right? It's fucking massive. So I've called Ian next door, got on the phone to him. Any chance you can give us a hand with this? Turned out to be a common £75. So that was one part, right? So we were sitting just to have a little chit chat like you do until it gets light and we can see where we are and get my breath back and lift this thing out. It's not easy dealing with them, is it? You know, whatever old you are, it really ain't. So that wasn't the end of it, because the day before, Dave Wibley in 17, he's called me up at first light. What's happening? You got one? Yeah, I got one. I had it. Go on. So it's just got out the sling. He said, I put it in the water. He said, and as it's done that, it's gone mad and it's burst the zip on the sling. It's gone. What was it? £75 common. Fuck's sake. Look, David, you never got a photo, but at least you caught it. Landed this thing, looked in the bottom there. I said, was it short fat, that common you had on it? Yeah. I said, do you want your photos doing? I've got him here.
What?
24 hours after.
No.
Yeah, the same one. I said, Dave come and got his photos and everyone was happy. Back it went.
No.
Yeah, it was
You touched
millions to one on it.
Yeah. I mean, more, isn't it? Really, more. Before we leave Rainbow, because there's so many tales we could tell. And now, listen, you are going to write a book, so many of these things presumably are going to be in the book. But can you describe to us what Rainbow is like for those of people who've never seen it? Because it is quite a unique venue, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've all seen pictures of it on the drones and from above and whatever. It's like big game fishing for carp. It is. It's very intense when you're sitting there waiting for the action. But it's one of those places where the longer it goes on, if you're on a normal session, you've done 3 or 4 days and you haven't had a bleep, your confidence goes down. But on there, your confidence has got to go up and your anticipation level goes up, a bit like a seesaw. So while that's dropping down your confidence, your anticipation will go, because this will go in the end. Now, in all the sessions I've done, you know, some are 2, but I've done over 100, maybe 120 trips. Some of them are 2 weeks, some a week. And I only ever caught blanked 3 times, and both 3 times that was always the first week of January. So at some stage in that week, it will happen. And the anticipation, the excitement there is like nothing else.
It looks like almost a different
It's like
world.
the Wild West.
You got these pines out on little dot islands falling in off the side of the islands.
And other islands, you're thinking they're so big, you're going to see Brontosaurus's head sticking above it and pterodactyls flying around. So I swear if Steven Spielberg had seen that for the set of Jurassic Park, that would have been in the frame.
It does look like a primordial sort of world,
it's
doesn't it?
prehistoric.
Yeah. Still the same draw for you now?
Yeah, it's like, there's a few things happened there recently. Those fires are horrendous, you know, and all the places in Europe or the world, it's so far out the way there, and for them to have such terrible, devastating fires and in that area twice is just like, how's your luck? You know, it's a feel for the family. You know, having to be told to take all your belongings and get out, like because your house is going to go, when it's 30 yards from the gate to the house and you can't see your house from that because of the smoke. When there's aeroplanes going over, you know what they do in France where they drop the water on it? 10 metres above the house, 4 planes going over. There's 50 or 60 fire engines in your garden. Then you had, before there was that at first, then there was a COVID going on. It's obviously affected everyone. The fires last year that are still, the lake didn't open for probably 6 or 7 months. And, the family there that they're absolutely is distraught with it all. So we just hope now that we've got nice
clear
times
run of
it
it.
all and get back down there again.
No, the one thing that I guess that enforced absence in Rainbow has done for you is it's refocused you on some English fishing, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think we're gonna round off with a little bit of an acknowledgement, Martin, that certainly from Instagram. Instagram tells me that you are catching regularly at the minute, irrespective of like you've caught through the winter. You're catching good fish, aren't you, on Syndicate Lake?
They're excellent on there. It's quite local to where I work and where I live. And it's revisited from a lake I've been to for 30 or 40 years. And it's just been a top year or two on there. So, people start all that, you've caught them before, why do you want to keep going? That's what I like it. I had someone talk to me at a show once, come up to me and say, I don't know why you got a rainbow, you caught the big uns. I said, well, I haven't really caught the big uns. But I said, there's one question I ask myself when I get home, did I enjoy it? I said, the reason I asked that question is I'm catching them for me, not for what you think of me. And he went, yeah, get it, put it there, shake of hands, and that's exactly the same as now, So until something else comes along that sort of lights me up to go and concentrate on the water, I just carry on what I'm doing. It's enjoyable down there, good bunch of lads, lovely fish, nice way of fishing, all close range, turn up there after dark, set up in the dark, pack up in the dark and the rain and whatnot. Just, I go fishing. It's hard work sometimes in the winter, especially trying to motivate yourself to get out the door. The line is you can't catch them at home.
No, that is I mean, like, all respect to you, mate, because there's so many lads that won't do that in their 20s, never mind, as experienced as you are. So, like, fair play, because you're out there doing it still every week, aren't you, I guess?
If I can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you lose your match fitness.
Listen, mate, it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure to have you in.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much.
It's been really good.
I don't know how the heck we haven't scratched the surface. I know that, but hopefully, if you do get around to doing the book, then everyone can find out a lot more about it there, can't they? So
yeah, one day.
Yeah, one day.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
mate.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.